It just sound kind of like Link doing like if he actually was a little more masculine.
I know, it's like trying to like roll the chair, but don't roll it over the cord.
If they ever had like a game where Link got older than like maybe 18, you know?
It's like whatever happens to Link, it's like the second he turns 18, they're like, we gotta kill him! We gotta kill him! Why? Because we can't let the hero be, you know, a man! He's gotta be the hero of time, boy!
Yeah, that's the thing. They never really go past. That's why I think that I'd like to see like an older, grizzled Link who's seen this shit, you know? Because it seems like, well, you did it as a boy, got all out of the way, now just kind of enjoy the rest of your youth.
But probably
just chill out on a cabin.
Probably what happens, it's like, okay, you're gonna become a man, now get on that fucking raft and go sail out there. Well, where am I going? I don't know where the fuck you're going, but you're getting out of Hyrule. That's where you're fucking going.
They always just end up on that same island from like Link's Awakening.
Yeah, exactly. They keep landing on this island. They're like, oh, okay, solved the mystery here. Now time to sail back. Oh yeah, just to let you know, you don't get back. You don't get back. The tides take you. You die out there. It's miserable.
Or it's just kind of like,
well, should I stay here? No, you can't stay here either.
Or it's just a purgatory or hell kind of thing. But I always assumed that he actually made it back. I don't assume that like he was. I assumed that when he leaves the island, it's just like the island never saw him again. I assumed he made it to wherever he was going.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is what it probably is. It's probably now they go interdimensional, and then they end up in this like other world, and that's like Link the Four Swords. So it's just all these links thrown together. Like, well, what the fuck you doing here? Well, I'm the hero of time. Fuck you, I'm the hero of time. You want to see my hero of time fucking tattoo? Like, whips out his dick. Like, well, dude, I didn't get
They all got the same one. Like, we're brothers, bro!
Start chest bumping.
Still with their pants down.
Yeah, in fact, we don't need these pants. They just, like, rip them off and throw them in the air, shoot them with bow and arrows.
Here's the time, don't fear pants.
Yeah. Here's the time, don't need pants either.
No, just no time for belts. That's all it is. No, I was gonna say
fucking belt on there. That's how it is. You know, it's like can't have your dick be getting caught like in a gate or something.
God, this went south real fucking quick. I was gonna say regarding that though.
Hey, Purple Link, you talk from experience. Yeah, I fucking talk from experience. Yeah, one time I got my dick caught in a gate. Shit fucking happens.
Well, those ones are they actually like? First, we should get our names out of the way. I'm Ryan Dunigan.
I'm Special Scott Holmes, and this is Old Man Orange Podcast.
Yay! But is that whole thing? I mean, because they have the whole expanded universe thing, which I read some of. I've never read the whole thing. Is it like, oh, you got this item, so now just here's duplicates of you, or is it one of those things? Go here are links from different games that stumble into each other.
I can't remember what it is. I mean, like the weird thing is Four Swords is one of the timeline games. You'd think that would just be a spin-off, but it's not. Where it fits in, I don't know. I can't remember. I want to say it comes after Wind Waker, and I don't remember how they split. But they do.
I want to say they all. I want to say they all are part of that whole timeline, with the exception of the Panasonic games.
Well, yeah. Well, those aren't Nintendo. That just happened to be like Panasonic's like, huh, we got you by the balls, Nintendo. Guess what? We're gonna make some fucking Zelda games. Fuck you for not joining with us, you fucking cocksuckers. I mean, that's really.
Well, wasn't
that's what that all was?
Wasn't it like a thing where? Well, it was actually Sony. They made the PlayStation out of spite for Nintendo, because they went up to Nintendo like all excited, like, yeah, we're gonna work with Nintendo to make some system. And Nintendo went behind their back, and it was announced in a bit like after they're just like, okay, well, sure, we're gonna do this. They never got back to them, and they just like, yeah, we're actually working with Panasonic now. And then they're just like, what the fuck? And that's now they have their greatest enemy there. So that's kind of their own doing right there. And then, like, but the Panasonic, did the deal go bad pretty quickly? And they were just like, well, we still got the rights to these characters, so we're going to do what we want with them.
Yeah, I think there was one of those weird, they just had the rights for, like, so, you know, just, like, enough time. They're like, fuck, we'll crank out a couple games here. And, you know, fuck you, Nintendo. Actually, I read something kind of interesting recently that apparently Sony and Sega almost had a deal going at that same time period, too. That's, like, the most, like, shadiest times. It's, like... back, like, they were like behind closed doors, everybody's making fucking deals with each other. It's like, this is how World War I started. And that's how we get to the console wars. It's like everybody's making deals with Sony. Like, Sony's just that in-between one. Fucking Nintendo's making deals. Panasonic. Sega's making deals. And I think the Sega one was supposed to be originally what the Saturn was going to be. It was going to be paired up with Sony. And then Sony dropped out. Or something happened there. And then there was like another chip company too that was supposed to like make a chip for the Saturn, and then Sega's like, no, we don't need you. So they sold it off to Nintendo 64. It was like a weird kind of like all these things were coming together and then they split.
Essentially, Sony's the kid like, I'll show you all, because they just keeps on getting all these deals, and people just like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. You don't know what you're doing. You're not Nintendo. You're
Yeah,
not
I think
Sega.
that's what happened. Is like they just kind of get too full of themselves. Because you think about it's like, imagine the power if both Nintendo and Sony were together. It's like you could have like a Sony TV that was like, oh, just plug the 64 cartridge right into it.
So in that case, do you think Crash Bandicoot and Mario would have been in the game together, or do you think Crash Bandicoot would have gone to Sega?
Nah, that's a good question there. It probably, if Sega just stayed the way that Sega was going, I think it would have been like an N64 game. If that was the standard. Or let's just say the N64 was a disc drive.
He could have been a Smash Brother. He could have been like a Smash Brothers character. Not saying it would be an amazing character for Smash Brothers, but something like that.
This sounds so weird, and this is like such a weird complaint. But since you just kind of mentioned that, you know what always bothered me is that in the PlayStation All-Star games, it's like, why didn't Sony just shell out the cash and buy Crash Bandicoot's likeness from Universal? How fucking expensive could that have been?
You know what I think it is? I honestly think it's actually he's a staple of the time. And I think that people kind of look down on him now. I think he has his fan basis that people still have. I mean, I think he still has a little bit of a fan basis, but I think that like even Sonic, I kind of saw a couple like videos analyzing Sonic and breaking it down. Like one of the reasons why he has trouble getting by this day and age.
What can I relate to the kids? It's like, oh well, it's you're a '90s child.
What do you mean, man?
Which is now a '90s boy, man, child. What are you talking about, man? The kids, they're my main man. That's who they are. They represent me, fool.
They still like The Offspring, Real Big Fish, Everlast.
Yeah,
Come on, bro.
Public Enemy. Like, where's the fight the power speech?
Oh, so that Sonic wouldn't listen to that. That had a parental advisory label on it. Well, granted, it said Real Big Fish.
Sonic would totally listen to parental advisory. He's like that kind of guy. He's like, you wish your parents could buy you this album. Like, too bad. I'm listening to it right now.
I think Shadow's the one that would do that. I think Sonic's the one who's a little bit more clean, kind of like, yo, man, let's fight the power, but be home before 7.
I guess it's kind of like that.
Because Shadow was the one, because that's the thing. Because Sonic was originally the badass, like, yo, fuck that fat Italian guy. Let's go run fast and let's go run, And then eventually, what was the end thing? Just like, well, now it's not about being all hip and cool. It's about being down and angry and depressed and sometimes carrying a gun. So that's why you got Shadow. And Shadow, he's kind of a joke.
Well, I think
now,
Sonic represents the '90s kid. Shadow represents the 2000s kid. Really, at the end of the well, because really Shadow is like he's like that when you were real young, you listened to Marilyn Manson, but then at one point My Chemical Romance came out, and for some reason that became harder for you.
I feel like the kid that does like the MySpace profile picture where he's looking solemn, not really at the camera or anything, just kind of looking off into the sunset, dressed in all black. I feel like that's the kind of kid that would have a Shadow the Hedgehog t-shirt or have him as an avatar.
I'm not saying anything against Shadow the Hedgehog, but that's who he kind of represents. He really is like, I didn't really put two and two together, but he is like the ultimate like 2000s representation. That's why he probably has a hard time in like the 10s. He has a hard time relating to those kids, probably.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I still like Sonic the Hedgehog, but I know all the criticisms, and I understand a lot of the criticisms, and I get I even like Shadow, but I kind of get it. They're trying to make a dark, edgy, adorable hedgehog, which is kind of hard to do. So when you got something like Shadow right there, I think that's one of the other things why it's had trouble, because Sonic is almost 30 years old now. So you had the 90s where it's just kind of like, here's the hip guy, and oh, that's no longer hip. Well, let's get in the darker, edgier, side character. And now people liked him a lot when he first came out, and now he's kind of a joke. So they don't have the third guy, but we're at the point where a lot of people stop bringing in new characters, stop bringing in new ones. That's why they're doing the whole OC thing and the new.
Yeah, I mean, you got that going, but going back to my original thing, it's like, once again, why didn't Sony shell out money to have Crash Bandicoot in the fighting game? It's like, well, you just think about it, it's not that I think it's because it's a thing of the time. I'm like, dude, Crash Bandicoot represents Sony. I don't care how you think about it, even if it's only like the original Sony. it
Sony of America.
represents it
Sony of
like
America.
very well for like the 90s. So it's like when you're gonna have a Smash Brothers game, it's the one thing I whenever playing that game, it's like I actually like that game quite a bit, but I look at that and go, God, out of everybody, it's like how expensive could Crash been to buy his like likeness back just for a game? I'm pretty sure Universal would be totally fine with being like, oh yeah, here you go.
I feel like they just probably didn't care to. I don't know, because he's not. I don't dislike or hate the character. When I was younger, I did.
Yeah, it's
that's
like
the enemy.
you pick
but
your side.
you,
That's
you had
literally
to
what
pick
school is all
sides.
about. It's like you know what I mean. You didn't get to have both systems. You only got one system.
And it was never always like say something like the game systems did themselves. It was more of something that like someone else would do, and I would put it on the game system. Example, like you'd be a kid, you'd be reading a video game magazine like Game Informer or Game Pro, and they come across like some article about Sony, Sega, and Nintendo duking it out. And given however business is going, I remember one time I saw an illustration. It wasn't even like a first party illustration. It was an illustration of Mario knocked out on the ground, like KO'd, with Crash standing over him, like yeah, And it was like just an illustration made by the company of the publishing company. And that right there, as a kid, you're like, fuck that! That wouldn't fucking happen. You don't even take the time to read the story that it was all about, like their business that year. You just take it strictly as like that wouldn't fuck Crash. Like they didn't put out that picture. That was literally Game Pro. Fuck
That sounds
Crash.
like a PSN magazine.
Because
PSN was like,
I mean,
PSN
you
was
see
just
that
made for. It was like the ultimate like Sony fanboy magazine, just made to piss off Nintendo fans. It felt like at the end of the day, and I guess Sega fans too.
I remember I read PSN for a while, but yeah, they plus they had their own. I'll say they had a lot of their own like cool cover art, but they had other stuff that was like. I mean, I know you're talking about a lot of.
It was totally meant for like I don't know. It was almost like if you combine Mad Magazine, sort of, with like a game magazine, but it was always like insulting something Nintendo or insulting something Sega. Which I mean, don't get me wrong, Sega did the exact same thing throughout the 90s too. It's like, we'll give you here's what you can do with a Game Boy. You can use it as like an ass scratch pad because that's about all it's worth. You just like get the Game Gear, you cheap fuck.
Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't even think Nintendo did a whole lot of like counter ads. They were just very solemn. Like, no, go ahead, keep throwing that shit.
Well, yeah, Nintendo kind of like they kind of did like. They did a little bit. Like, okay, you just turn the other cheek now, and that's how you fight these guys. Just because these Sega boys are going to be throwing things at you and calling you a fag, that doesn't mean that you can't stand still. You know what? When you're in the bus, you don't go to the back. You sit in your seat and you play your Game Boy. Damn it! Just because some guy comes on, with
don't ever let them
and says
see
he's
you
more worthy than you. Fuck him. I mean, don't say fuck him though. That wouldn't be nice.
Keep that rating now.
That's always kind of feels like that because you never really saw that. I mean, it probably appeared in some Nintendo Powers, but it wasn't as prevalent as like when you read like the Sega magazine. Because the Sega one was just all about like, hey, there's a kid down the street, he's got a Super Nintendo. You don't fucking trust him. Don't fucking believe anything he says. He's a fucking liar. He votes for the other party. What party do you vote for? Who the fuck cares? He's voting for the other one.
I feel like Sega Magazine, if they could have, they would have just had like the cover of Sonic just squatting down, taking a shit on a 64.
Plug that in
I feel like they would have done that if they could have. Well, all that being said, I will say Nintendo Power. I don't know about the new one, but old Nintendo Power, near the end of its run, you could see it was reaching for shit to publish because it was like there's not a whole lot was coming out for it because like the Wii and the Wii U, like not very much was coming out. So
wasn't even around
you could
when
see
the Wii U was out.
Well, the Wii, I remember at least the Wii had trouble. There was near the end, they're just like, okay, so we're going to talk about Mama's Cooking Kitchen. Okay. And just whatever game they could find, which there wasn't many at that time that was like first party stuff or even major third party stuff. But I remember there was one that was just kind of like, we're doing a checklist of everything great about Mario. Again. Yeah. It's like, number 1, Mario. Number 2, Luigi. And when you get to like 15, the Koopalings. It's just like you could tell they have like a paragraph for each of saying why this character is so good and why this character is so important or these items or whatever. And I was just like, Oh boy, you guys are like really just reaching
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
that's definitely kind of true. I mean, it's even like that's what I kind of like with the Nintendo Force, which is kind of almost the spiritual successor to Nintendo Power. Like that magazine, it comes out like every 2 months, so that's pretty much about enough time to fill that in. But the neat thing is what they'll do is like, okay, say like a game comes out like on the Virtual Console, well, they'll have a big fat review on that. So if you never played it, at least, oh, cool, you can hear all about it, or you can hear if it holds up, or that version, or whatnot. And then they do some retro sections, and they'll have some kind of behind the scenes stuff. So they fill that void just in case when there is a time period where there's not a whole lot of major titles coming out.
Hmm. I will say that after E3, Nintendo's got people excited again because for a while, like you heard nothing about the Switch, but then they got the new Metroid games coming
Oh yeah, they
out.
got two Metroid games. That's like okay. The only one that's kind of weird though is they got that Mario and the Rabbits or whatever the fuck those things are from Rayman.
Uh huh.
I look at that game and it's just like I don't know those. You know what those rabbits really remind me of? They're like minions.
The Minions.
They're literally like the video game equivalent of minions. And I don't know. I look at those things and ever since that game originally came out like on the Wii, it's just kind of like I don't know. That's just too fucking weird.
Here's the thing about that because I had the same feeling, but then I actually read this little article about that, and the way that game actually came about was one of the lead creative guys that did the Rabid series. He is obsessed with Shigeru Miyamoto and he loves Nintendo. Always wanted to job at Nintendo. Happened to work at Ubisoft, and he actually just said he reached out to Ubisoft, said, "Hey man, can we just? I got this idea that infuses our characters with Mario characters. Can we just try this thing out?" The idea of it being kind of like I think if you just, I'm looking at the game, If you just took the rabbits out, I mean, it looks like a fun game, like a weird strategy cover based, like kind of an RPG shooter kind of. It looks
Mm-hmm.
looks very different. It doesn't look like when I first saw Mario and Rabbids, I'm like, what's this? I actually saw the gameplay. I'm like, that actually looks kind of fun. But the only thing that throws me off is the Rabbids. Regardless of that, though, Shigeru Miyamoto went up to present it, and the guy who was one of the creative teams was the head creative guy on making the game. He singled that guy out in the audience, says like, this guy had a vision. This guy believed in what he was making. Gave us a very passionate speech. There was no real connection between Nintendo and Ubisoft. This guy's ambition alone got this game made. So thank him right here. Everyone claps. You could actually see the guy actually tearing up. Miyamoto singling him out, saying, "Good job, man. We hope that we like this game a lot." So that right there is like, fuck, because you see that trailer and you want to hate the game so much, but then you hear that and like this guy just followed his fucking dream and his icon gave him the thumbs up. So
Well, it's one of those ones like I know it's probably gonna be really good because I have heard throughout time that like oh those Rayman like spin-off games are really good. But it just it was like just look at those characters. They're just almost like so weird. It's almost like the same thing I look at like Despicable Me. I'm like, if they probably didn't have the minions in there, that movie looks kind of decent. But with the minions, I just don't know. I feel
I
like
got
they're.
my go ahead.
Oh, I just feel like they're just gonna get. I just feel if you watch it, they just get too obnoxious over time.
I got my arm twisted into watching Despicable Me 1, and I wasn't amazed or anything. It was all right. The minions aren't too ridiculous in that movie, I
I
will
think they just
say.
get more ridiculous over time, though.
I think that's what happened. People liked them in the first one, and then they just started piling those things on. I haven't seen 2 or 3 or the spinoff, but I think the more I see of those things, that's just like okay. They had a few little funny moments in the first one, and that's good enough. We don't need to keep on doing it.
Yeah, no, I think
The
that's kind of what
rabbits
it
thing,
is.
the rabbits thing seemed kind of like the Ubisoft equivalent.
Yeah, and it's not that. Yeah, there's not anything against it, but it's just yeah, it just looks a little bit weird.
I'm hoping that game's good. I mean, gameplay wise, I'll say this: the only thing stopping me from just like wanting that game immediately is the rabbits, because the gameplay itself looks fun. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll probably end up getting it. Chances are.
Well, it's like well, a lot of those games I like to buy them anyways, just to sort of support Nintendo. And I know it sounds like ultimate like '90s fanboy, but it's like, hey, those traditions they stay with you till the day you die. You support your cause, god damn it.
Thinking back on it, I guess Nintendo versus Sega. It is kind of like Bloods versus Crips.
Yeah, red versus blue.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, that's
Color schemes and
except for
everything.
it's more just like that's it's it almost kind of reminds me of that thing where Or it's almost even like Malcolm X, like versus Martin Luther King. Like when you get those two fans in the early days, where like they're like rabid and just like they're almost not really even listening to each other. They're just finding ways to have different ways to fight. And
Well,
that's
I
sort of
think
how it is, because we're at Nintendo's just like, okay, you know what? You stand your ground, you be who you want to be, but you don't have to say anything bad about the other guy. And everyone's like, fuck him. They don't need to get here. Get them out of the fucking country. You know what? It's going to be Sega only.
Sega, Sonic is Malcolm X.
Yeah, and then at one point he has this like revelation one day. He's like, "Oh fuck, I traveled in Nintendo Land. And I had a fucking revelation. Everybody was there. Everybody was playing
Smash
video
Brothers
games."
Land.
Yeah, I went to Smash Brothers Land. There was fucking Solid Snake there. It was okay. He was carrying a PlayStation, and nobody seemed to fucking mind. And that's
played in the Olympics. We were happy together.
And then he goes back to fucking like Sega and says this, and then like just one of the Streets of Rage characters comes up and goes, "Fuck you, Sonic!" Just shoots him right on stage.
I thought it'd be Shadow, just like.
I guess it could be Shadow
won
too.
that spotlight.
I like to assume that it's somebody from like one of the like random ass Sega games.
Shoot rockets or some shit.
Could be that too, even.
Or like the GGs from Jet Grind Radio skate by and drive by and like do
just
a
like
backflip
shoot Sonic just up on the stage like falls over a couple times, gets shot a couple more.
Oh boy, that's what they just. I don't know. This only goes darker places the more we throw to it. I'm trying to think.
But no, there is a bunch of cool games coming. There's way more cooler games coming out than you almost need, but at least Nintendo's finally got some stuff going. Hopefully that will keep trending along and it won't take too long for it to come out. That's my only fear.
Yeah. I'll actually want to get this. I meant to get this out of the way sooner, but now here we are, like 20 minutes in. I actually wanted to give a quick shout out to Robin Slim, because they actually had I don't have the name right here, but the lady who does the voice of Summer on Rick and Morty, they got her on her show, and they did like a 20-minute interview with her. It was really good.
Oh, nice. Was
it good for them?
Did they get her like on Skype or something like that?
Yeah, she called in. Okay,
but that's still, cool. Well, that's better. Sometimes I always go, it's like, it's not one of those ones where like they like pushed her over at like a Comic-Con and be like, "Fucking talking the mic, bitch." Because those ones are always kind of like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, I always feel like that doesn't almost even count. It's like, well, if you just shove.
Well, that wasn't what it was. She actually got her to call in and she did an interview. It was a really good interview, and I also wanted to. I would have mentioned it last time, but we, had David Gross on. I wanted to make more about him. Also, another thing that's going to be happening pretty soon. I can't put a date on it. I have my friend David. He's starting up his channel, and I just want to give a heads up on this. He's starting his channel, and he's going to be trying to do like movies and video game reviews, and he's doing this thing where he's picking video games out of a clearance bin from GameStop and just kind of gives a quick sum up of it. And I'm kind of like the second guy there. And we did kind of like we were doing that Homefront game, the sequel to Homefront, and just kind of covered that game and tried to be funny about it. We had like some little skits here and there, kind of like. Don't you think it's kind of weird when like we acknowledge it? Like, isn't it kind of weird like when they talk to you but you say nothing back? Do you ever think what that looks like? And then David's just being the guy talking. I'm just kind of like walking around, just like dead-eyed, not making eye contact, moving, So just kind of sketch like stuff like that. So that could be coming up soon. I don't know. I can't put a date on it when he's still editing it.
Oh yeah, he's putting it together. So hopefully that'll come up in the next month or so.
I mean, I don't really know how it came out. Probably came out good. He was funny. I just like my whole thing was just like be the stupid like character that doesn't say anything, just runs around in circles or whatever.
Well, that's cool. So is it like Let's Play style or is it like more just talking?
Might do some Let's Play stuff in it. It's kind of like we're sitting down in front of a green screen talking. I'm kind of the sidekick. Because I didn't play the whole game. I just played a bit of it just to get the idea of it. And he's kind of like talking more about it, and then we did the sketches, and that's probably gonna. I don't know when it's gonna be coming up, but I'll make sure to put a link when it does. But so yeah,
nice. So cool, all kinds of new things to check out there as well.
Beyond that, I didn't see it, but did you see the Transformers movie?
Yeah, I saw it Tuesday or whatever when it came out.
I'll be honest, I just didn't care to see this.
Why did that movie come out Tuesday? That's all I want to know. Like, what the fuck? Like, there's no holiday. There's no like special reason why. Like, why did that come out Tuesday? It's such an odd day.
Is there some big movie coming out this weekend doesn't want to compete with, maybe?
Nope, not. Yeah, it wasn't one of those ones. Because there's nothing. That is the big movie coming out. So. Yeah, it was weird. It came out too. It's not. I'm not. I'm complaining, but I just thought it was weird. I was just trying to figure out why. It's not that
Baby
it
Driver comes out next week, and that comes out on a Tuesday also,
does. That one come out Tuesday?
or Wednesday, I think. Tuesday or Wednesday it comes out.
I thought it came out on Thursday. Well, because that one and Atomic Blonde come out next week.
Which I want to see both those movies, but I'm way more amped for Baby Driver.
Well, yeah, that's because it's
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright film. That's like just bound to happen because of that. No, I watched Transformers 5. It was fun. It was definitely like one of those ones, just like a lot of the other ones. It was a little bit longer than it probably needed to be. Like that one definitely felt like it could have been trimmed. And I will say, because I thought that series kind of almost got better as they went on. I think 3 is my favorite one, but I liked 4 probably right after it. I was kind of hoping 5 would be up in that same caliber, and it's good, but you know, it's a fun one, definitely worth seeing. But it definitely, I don't know, they threw way more jokes in this one that kind of felt like retarded. And I don't know what it must be like Michael Bay humor. That's all I can assume. It's just like this is stuff that Michael Bay finds fucking hilarious. But sometimes I look at some of those jokes and it's just like that went through writers' hands, producers' hands, director hands, everybody else around, and people are like, "Yeah, that's good, keep it." Because some stuff in there, it's like, why is that in there? It's like this is a Transformers movie. Do we really need some of this really corny humor?
Well, it's like, I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen other movies. You see snippets of that in older Michael Bay movies. Like his best movie, The Rock, even has a little bit of that. Like there's the part where he says like, "I'm a stylist," you know, there's that whole part.
Yeah,
and
that guy is like,
"Please, please, I don't," like he seems so out of place with the rest of that movie. The rest of that movie like feels like kind of it's on the same page. But that one character, he's just like, "Look, I don't care what you did to that man. Just please tell me, do you like your hair?"
and that's just those might be like the kind of jokes where everybody else is kind of cringing and Michael Bay just fucking busts up laughing like, he's fucking gay. like the same thing too is he reminds me of like one of those kind of guys who would like would sit like kind of like hiding sort of like in like a ghetto area and then wait for like some black guys to have an argument and then just fucking be hysterical. He's like, they are so fucking funny.
That is going into 2 robots in Transformers 2.
Dude, they bring the ghetto bot pretty much back. It's not the ghetto bots, but they have another bot in there who pretty much is a ghetto bot.
Well, it's always kind of one of those things like the Ferrari is like the super Italian one. You know, it's always like the drifter is like voiced by Ken Watanabe and doing samurai shit.
Yeah. Well, I think Michael Bay at the end of the day, I think he just finds stereotypes hilarious.
I feel like that he's somebody. I'm not trying to sound like, you know.
And I don't think I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, to each their own.
I'm not trying to like, you know, like make an oversimplified a guesstimation on the guy or anything, but I feel like that he's kind of detached from reality. So just the simple things of just like gay stereotype. The mom ate pot brownies. Like, yeah, pot brownies don't do that to you. Pot brownies, you probably just pass out and listen to some music or watching YouTube. That's the most you do. You're not gonna run throughout the whole. There's something else in those fucking brownies in like Transformers 2. Those sure shit were pot brownies.
Well, no, I literally think it is. I think that's true. I think Michael Bay, 1, he's just old, and 2, he's detached. And I think that combination has made him. And I think it's one of those ones. His movies make so much fucking money that nobody says anything. Like, you know, Paramount's like, somebody's like, oh, puts their hands on the show. Just let him go with it. Let him have his fun. This movie's just gonna make us bank anyways. Who the fuck cares what shows up on screen?
Well, that's what I like about. I think for somehow that all kind of worked out in Pain and Gain, because regardless of what you say about everything else he's done,
dude, Pain and Gain is like a marvelous like fucking classic of a film.
I loved Pain and Gain, and that movie. It's just I think that's actually something perfect for Michael Bay because it already is kind of like. I think there's some things that he just doesn't get. I'm not saying it to be a dick. I mean, clearly the guy is like, you know, can make masterpieces out of explosions and action scenes. His has a lot going on. His cinematography work is amazing. But I feel like that there is just some things like, dude, you don't get it. That's kind of bad comedic timing, or that's not funny, or
that's annoying.
No one else is laughing. Why you keep doing this? Why do you like? If we're going back to Transformers 2, like Shia LaBeouf, not nearly as annoying in that movie, but they got to give him the wild and wacky roommate.
The roommate that's always like, oh.
It's just the most stereotypical, most annoying character possible in that movie. And then just other things in that movie going on too. But then, so I think there's some things he just doesn't get, where whether he did or didn't, I think it's funny in pain and game because I think everybody else kind of gets it, you know?
Well, for some reason, everything kind of works in that movie. I think here's the thing: Transformers. I know some people might balk at this, but Transformers is a serious idea that he's almost doing the thing where, almost like Joel Schumacher kind of did when he was making Batman. He's like, it's a fucking Batman movie. It's supposed to be funny. You know what I mean? Like, he's almost gets like, it's Transformers. It's supposed to be kind of weird. Where it's like, no. Transformers should be like Pacific Rim where you take it fucking serious. Like, and I think that's sometimes kind of missing in his way of breaking like the ice of making the movie not seem, it's like, okay, the robots are serious, but then we'll throw some weird comedic stuff in there to sort of break the, I don't know, break the tension maybe of it. But I mean, once again, at the end of the day, I think it's one of those ones that once you just kind of accept the Transformers movies for what they are and you just kind of enjoy them for what's going on, they're fun. And this movie too, it's like, okay, they got Anthony Hopkins in it. And he's given like almost weird lines to say, but when Anthony Hopkins says them, they're actually pretty fucking funny.
I can imagine that. Well, I'm just
because I guess because you just don't see Anthony Hopkins delivering lines like this, and it's just like he's almost taking corny lines, but since he can like do it super well, like they come out actually pretty darn funny.
First off, I want to say it's funny that like when Transformers 1 came out, I really liked it, and I was like a real defender, and you were just like, fuck this movie and fuck the franchise. And by number 4, you're like, maybe I'll give it a shot. And now you like it more than I do.
Well, it's one of those ones like, and it's just, I guess that comes to collusion with like, just the older I get, the more and more accepting I get of like pretty much almost generally any movie. And it's kind of like there's that period where it's like, you know, like the high school person, like, yeah, fucking Michael Bay, he thinks he's so fucking cool. Or probably not even high school, probably like late high school. And then it's like, now it's like, I look at Michael Bay and I kind of like, I look at all his movies. I'm like, you know, for the most part, I like 95% of the movies. Actually, I pretty much like almost every single movie he's done. And I can't think of a movie that like I dislike that he's made. You know, Transformers 2 probably being my least favorite of them all. I still like, it's not bad. It's just not, it's just got a lot of weird moments in it that probably are unnecessary. That's all I have to say. I dislike
number 3 the most, or number 4. I don't know.
Really? I think three is my favorite one.
I think it's kind of like a national treasure movie with, oh, here's some robot shit for a minute, you know?
Well, it's like in number 5, the good thing about that one is there's only one kind of bad character. And she's not super obnoxious, but it's like they can't really get away from like not having some kind of obnoxious
Is she like the 21-year-old like PhD like supermodel or whatever?
No, she's like 30 something years old. She's the love interest for Marky Mark. But like at first she's just kind of talking down to him like he's fucking retarded. She's like, oh, I'm British. Oh, look at me. I'm a stereotype. And, you know, going on like, look how smart I am because I'm British. And probably Michael Bay's like, she's fucking British and smart. It's so fucking funny.
He's just like clapping his hands together like real close.
Like, just like, it's like the greatest. That's all I ever picture. Is just I picture Michael Bay being the most unserious guy ever who just finds all this stuff so fucking weird
you hear
and
stories
funny.
about him being very strict on his set and like, everybody be quiet. We're shooting this. It's very important. There's even like,
we're shooting this scene. There's going to be some balls swinging forward. This is very important.
Well, yeah, because I remember there's a part where like on one of the making of Transformers, there's a part where he's all like, you know, he's a little stressed out sometimes, but he's a really good director, and they just showed some footage of him being like, you know, kind of directing the scene. Where you tell the guys back there to quiet down. Glad they're having a good fucking time, but I'm trying to work. And like you're imagining what's on the other side of the camera. The part where the mom has the pop brownies.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's trying to take it real serious.
Yeah,
who knows? That could be.
I imagine it's just like very serious, just kind of like okay, composed. I'm British. I'm smart. Blah 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 blah. Very good, very good. Runs on the corner. Oh fuck! And starts busting up laughing. Comes back out. Okay.
He comes back. He's like, "That's what you're supposed to do. See, that's how you have respect for the people you work with. You take that laughter around the corner. Nobody else is laughing. Fuck you. My movie." Paramount says I'm a fucking genius. Suck my dick.
Or he just goes into like a sound, or he just goes into like a whenever they shoot those scenes, he just goes into like a sound booth, like his own little mobile sound booth. He goes,
but like nobody else can hear it. He's just like, you can just see it though. He's just
banging the wall,
hand against the wall, like fucking dying in there. And it comes out like,
let's do another one. All right.
Woosah. Starts massaging his ears. He's like, I gotta do my own shit. But No, it's like I'd say it's worth seeing Transformers 5. It's one of those ones like when you watch it, that you kind of have this feeling like, you probably could edit it down a little bit, but that's kind of how all the other Transformers movies have been. And I don't know, it doesn't really add anything too much new to it. It leaves off for another one though.
Ask that. I'm like, I figured they're probably gonna leave off for another one, but I was asking, is this the one where they make it like the last one, or is it like, or they could be the last one or whatever? But it's called The Last Night.
Like, yeah, you think that is, and it's like, no, they find a way to. They actually find a way. It's kind of weird, but it's like, well, that's kind of cool. They like tied into like. Yeah, they tied into King Arthur, and it's like, well, that's kind of cool. I mean, obviously Merlin comes out, and they're like, Merlin's a fucking idiot and a drunk. He just got lucky that he found a robot.
I was gonna say, he was apparently, I overheard that he was originally going to direct that King Arthur movie, and they were bouncing around for a little while. They went with Guy Ritchie instead. So this is him saying, "Here's my fucking King Arthur."
Well, that's what came out of it. It's like clearly somebody else wanted to have a King Arthur movie, because that's like a big part of it. It's not like a small intro thing. It's like, oh no, that's like what ties this whole story together.
And apparently Bumblebee killed Hitler or something.
Yeah, like this sounds so weird. That was almost where the movie kind of lost me at, because okay, like I'll say it. Let's say the robots, they were there with King Arthur and they saved that battle. Okay, I can believe that they're kind of like Templars, like in Indiana Jones, and then next thing you know, they had to go and they set them all up to protect Merlin's grave so that nobody could grab the staff. And then if they're locked away, like I sort of get that part. But then once they start doing things like, oh no, Transformers have been with us the whole time. I'm like, so Transformers are just really horrible people that let like all this other atrocities happen after King Arthur? They're like, yeah, fuck it, Black Plague, we did it. Slavery, yeah, we were in on it.
Like what? Just like you got like plantation bot or something like that.
Like, yeah, just like, I got myself a plantation bot here now. Make sure he gets all the blackies. Okay, turn into one of your like they turn into like a horse and buggy and just starts like chasing after people and capturing them. But it's just like that. That's all I could think of. It's like one of those ones. I know somebody be like,
"Do they acknowledge that? Do they acknowledge that happened?"
No, they don't say that. They just kind of give out the thing. They like show just pictures of like Transformers of like different people in history. Like George Washington's crossing the river. There's a fucking Transformer like in the water next to it.
Really?
Yeah, I kid you not. There's
Are you fucking kidding me? Why the fuck? How?
So by that standard, that means that there was robots that were like, yeah, fuck those slaves.
Why?
Robots sitting there like, yeah, Black Plague came from our oil.
Did they say that? Came from our oil?
No, they don't say that. I'm just filling in the blanks.
Okay, but I'm just like, how the fuck did George Washington? It almost sounds like a joke right there. It almost sounds like I don't know, like a How It Should Have Ended parody or something. Oh.
Well, the thing is, I think what else got the
why are they even on a fucking boat if he's riding with he's fighting with fucking Optimus?
Exactly.
That's on like Optimus's shoulder or some shit, or just like riding in on a jet.
See, because here's the thing. The King Arthur one, like as I said, like let's just say like the Transformers, like the 13 Knights or whatever the fuck they were, they get locked up with Merlin, and then they're like in slumber, to protect it. Makes sense. I can believe that one. I'm totally all in for that idea. The second that you start saying that the Transformers have been hanging out with humans this whole time, why the fuck are they not like in some like futuristic Neo like city? Like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I don't know. It's just that weird. And I kind of like thought about like the thing they do with the Transformers, even though they're robots, they treat them more like they're giant monsters, if that makes any sense.
Well, they seem to be more of like, it's still very much, I don't mean this literally, but you know what I mean by this, a human story. And I don't mean that like in an artsy kind of way. I mean, it just focuses more on the humans and how the humans deal with the robots rather than being about the robots.
Well, yeah, it's got that, but I mean, like, the way that the Transformers are almost looked upon, it's almost like they're giant, like, because they don't treat them like, oh, we're super sophisticated intelligence. More like, we are ginormous brutes that fight each other throughout space.
And sometimes they have their stereotypes of some kind.
Yeah, they get stereotypes. Kind of the other cool thing is, like, there's a character, he's only, like, in it for a moment, but he's, like, this big traveling Transformer. He's got, like, all this shit on his back and everything like that. But it's played by, what's his name from Reservoir Dogs? Mr. Pink.
Steve
Buscemi. I thought that was kind of cool.
Is it, you could just tell by his voice, or did you actually...
I just could tell by his voice.
Is he just kind of... He almost kind of plays like you think, because Steve Buscemi, he's a fantastic actor, but you think, like, Reservoir Dogs. You think the door would open to all kinds of crazy other things, but then he's just like mainly Adam Sandler comedies after that.
Yeah, it's just like, well, he was in Fargo and he was in Big Lebowski.
Oh, I know,
Yeah,
but he
he's like,
starts off like on like Coen Brothers and Quentin Tarantino. But then after a while, it's just kind of like character acting and comedy. But then apparently he also like after 9/11, he quit acting for a while and just was became a fire because he used to be a firefighter.
I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that kind of explains why he had some absence for a while. But yeah,
Well, he's back to Transformers 5 now.
that's good. Well,
So,
actually, he was in Boardwalk Empire. I never seen it, but he apparently had a big role.
oh yeah, he was one of the main characters in that one.
Mhm.
That was almost reason enough to see that show. I was like, oh, Steve Buscemi's in it. But no, the Transformers one, it's a fun movie. Definitely worth seeing. It's got good action in it. They definitely kind of play off the night thing. They make it out like all the Transformers for some reason now aren't firing guns unless you're John Goodman. They're all like swinging swords and shit, which is like, oh, okay, well. A Transformers movie, you can't go in there with too much logic. You really got to back out of it. It's not like the '84 movie that, you know, has something really going on. These ones you kind of almost have to just accept them for like cool visuals and Marky Mark and yeah.
Is Josh Duhamel, because I know he plays a bigger part in this one. He comes back. Is he just there like, hey, remember me? Or does he actually do something in the movie?
Is that the military guy?
From the first three.
Yeah, he's in it, and at first he's like, well, they got like that area that like from the fourth one when like they destroyed like that section of town. They got it all like quarantined and whatnot, and Marky Mark's like living in there for some odd reason. Like I gotta like find my robot putties and like help him out. And then there's that little girl that's always in the trailer. Who's like, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna fight them. Even though they make her on that trailer like she's a really big character, she is really not that big of a character. She's like in the beginning and she's in the end, and that's it. Everything else is all Marky Mark.
Like, all right, move out of the way, honey. Men are working, kind of like that.
I thought it was what
they're
Marky
trying to
Mark's
make it
like,
this big, like they're
I
trying
think
to
they're
make
like, you're the daughter I always wanted. Fuck that other cunt. I sent her up to college. One thing she does is leave fucking voicemails at me. Good thing you don't have to see her in this movie.
I didn't like anybody in the fourth one that wasn't Mark Wahlberg or a robot.
Well, I just didn't like it was really just more like the daughter and her boyfriend were just like.
Stanley Tucci was even annoying too, though, because he was starting off as kind of like, oh, okay, so he's like a less evil Steve Jobs. And then as it goes on, he's becoming like bumbling. He's tripping over himself. He's no longer doesn't come across as threatening as he once was. I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. And then nothing about
Michael Bay's just like, if Steve fucking Jobs so fucking funny. Look at him, he's so fucking weird looking. Here, give me an apple. I want to throw it at him and say, fucking nerd.
Don't worry. I'll be in the outtakes. That's just for me.
That's just for me to like replay over and over.
In a loop. That's my new loading screen.
Yeah, I put it on my computer every time it starts up.
Just this apple hitting him in the side of the face, like poo, 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 poo.
Nerp, nerp, nerp. It's like, should anybody tell Michael Bay that you just can't shout out nerd? It's like, no. This Paramount says this movie makes too much money for you to say anything to Michael Bay.
I feel like Michael Bay. I don't feel like that because a lot of times you think like, oh, I was a film student. Like you were like a nerd who got made fun of a lot. I don't think maybe he's that guy who came back around and became like a big.
Reminds of the kind of guy who's like, I was 15 years old and yeah, I was the one making fucking porn. What the fuck were you guys doing? Sucking each other's dicks? That's what I thought.
Maybe. No, I was going to say he may have been the guy who was kind of bullied and then all of a sudden he got a little bit of power and they got drunk with that power. Or I think he's more likely just to be one of those guys who was just like a total bro who went into filmmaking and then got, he did a bunch of car commercials and whatnot. And from there just did like, yeah, man, it's funny. Just never had like that, just has like a sense of detachment from everybody.
No, I think that sort of is what it was. I think he is like the kind of guy, because you see those guys every once in a while. They're like, "Yeah, I got into filmmaking because I was fucking into cars and shit. I just wanted to shoot some cool stuff." It's like the same thing with like guys like, "Yeah, why'd you get into filmmaking?" Well, I wanted to shoot myself doing fucking sick tricks on my skateboard. And next thing you know, they're throwing money at me, and I was making videos for Tony Hawk. Then Tony Hawk was making videos for me. You know how it goes.
Yeah, something kind of like that, like
that's sort of what it reminded me of. Is he's probably one of those guys,
mm-hmm.
Not the guy who's like, "I got a story to tell." That guy's a fucking fag.
I heard this, and I doubt it's true. I mean, I doubt the movie.
We're just writing this autobiography that has we have no idea what it's all based off of.
I'm just assuming. I'm just
basing off of watching a movie and how he judges things.
Well, look at you can't say it's coincidental. You can't just say, oh, these action movies just happen to have a weird little bit of comedy every so often. The only movie of his I've not seen is that 13 Hours movie.
Yeah.
Everything else I've seen of his, and
It'd be
every
so
one
funny
of
if
his.
that movie looks so like serious and like war and all this stuff. It'd be so funny if he did this. Like you watch that movie and it actually has all that same comedy in it.
I'd assume maybe in a scene at some point someone's calling in like, I need ground support. Mm-hmm. Yep, we'll get right to that. He's like playing like a video game or something like that, or he's on like some dating simulator. Like, he's a fucking nerd. He can't get a real girl. That's why he's playing a dating simulator. Well, fucking Michael Bay. I'm guessing. I don't know. I've not seen the movie. I'm just assuming something like that's there because that's the only movie of his I have not seen. But every other movie of his has some of that awkward humor. Even Pearl Harbor has some of that humor.
Yeah, the Pearl Harbor does have that in there too. So it's kind of funny how that is. Yeah, weird thing is Transformers 5 I felt like had even more than 3 and 4. I could be wrong, but I don't know. It's, as I said, all the Anthony Hopkins stuff works. It's just because it's so fucking odd, and then Anthony Hopkins delivering it, it works. But he's got like the weirdest thing. Like Anthony Hopkins has like this like Butler robot with him who's got like anger and emotional issues. This is the thing I can never figure out. Why do all these robots have like super emotional issues? Like they don't even have just like light emotional issues. They got like extreme.
Like there's no real character development, but they are characters. Like this one just runs and attacks people out for no reason. This one is like a black stereotype. This one's an Italian stereotype. This one 1940s John Goodman.
Yeah. So they got like it's weird. It's like they got some of those things like that, but there's like the Butler character was kind of odd. And he's just this robot, and he like would freak out and like start punching people and shit. And he starts almost trying to strangle Marky Mark at one point. And
I wonder if it's one of those things like, look, we're hitting the 10-minute mark. There's been an action scene. Okay, just action scene. We got to have this thing freak out and start punching him. I mean, I liked Wonder Woman, but there were some moments where I felt like they probably put in this quick little barroom fight for the sake of having an action scene.
Yeah, exactly. There's those kind of things in it, but I don't know. All I have to say is this movie, like after watching that Tupac movie, that raised the bar for all the movies this year.
Tupac movie? I've heard mixed things with the Tupac movie. Eyes on Me. That one's pretty
good.
It was
amazing. Like I thought it was like just like how Notorious and Straight Outta Compton. All those movies have been like fucking like amazing.
Apparently, the guy that played from Notorious plays Biggie Smalls in this.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I like how they brought him back.
Doing a shared universe thing.
Yeah, pretty much just like that. Well, it's kind of funny because like in the Notorious one, you know who they got to play Tupac?
Who they get to play Tupac?
They got the Falcon to play Tupac.
Really, Anthony Mackie?
Which is really weird because like I think this was once at the time like he doesn't really look like Tupac, but like at the time you would not have thought anything of it. But when you in like hindsight when you think about it, you're like, oh, the Falcon plays Tupac. That's an interesting one. But I think that All Eyez on Me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you're like super like I know every like biographical detail of Tupac's life, maybe like then if I don't know if it's off by like something because I know that's mostly always the thing that kind of can ruin a biopic for some people, the people that know him like way too well. But I just think as overall as a movie, just as storytelling and just kind of like just showing that time. I just think I feel like it's one of the ones. What I like about those rap movies is I like that time period because it's like really it's. Even though it's kind of like this different world, it's like, dude, it's still the 90s. It's still like, just like how I remember it. Just from a different perspective. That's all it is.
It is weird knowing that there's a point where you lived in the 90s and then you kind of like, oh, now this is a time that people can replicate. It has this very own unique look that you don't see today, because I don't know. I guess it's just kind of weird because you'd see movies take place in the 80s or the 70s. I'm like, I wasn't there for it, but then you kind of see this time you were there for. I'm like, oh yeah, that look doesn't exist like it used to. So I heard a lot like Jada Pinkett Smith was talking a lot of shit on the movie because this didn't happen, that didn't happen, all this and that. So
she's only in it for like 2 scenes. It's like
I'm just going off because she apparently was really good friends with Tupac. So
well, they get that across in there, and it's like I don't know if she's doing the thing where she's like complaining like it wasn't exactly like that, or if she's complaining like I mean it's not like they do anything like. It's not like they said, like, oh, yeah, and Jada Pinkett Smith, like, somebody broke into her house and shot her and murdered her. She's like, I'm still alive. Thank you.
Like Patch Adams or whatever.
Yeah, like Patch Adams. That's what that's the movie I always go to. It's just like, I understand, like, bending the truth a little bit for storytelling, but Jesus Christ, like, you murdered a guy's wife who's still actually alive? Like, what the fuck?
Like, Dangerous Minds. I remember I had to read the book for, like, a class, and,
Oh
The
yeah,
original
the
book
one.
was
What's the original title of it? It's
My
like
Posse Don't Do Homework or
yeah,
something like.
it's like just always sounds like such like a white person. Like I'm trying to be hip with like the youth.
Well, I'll say the book's pretty good, and it's actually it doesn't feel like 'cause sometimes people make those movies out to be just here comes the white lady trying to save the day, and the book does not feel like that. The book feels pretty legitimate for the most part. Um, the movie though is does very much have that vibe that people complain about, and I read like an interview. I think it was a Cracked article where she was talking about her real life experience and in the movie. And she said she actually had to fight them and threaten to sue them on some things because at some point, like, we're gonna have a scene where you and a student start to have an affair. She's like, no. She's like, well, why not? It'll help for the drama for the movie. Because that didn't fucking happen. Because I wouldn't fuck a kid.
Just somebody like Michael Bay, like you wouldn't fuck a kid. You look like a kid fucker the whole way.
Yeah. And she says like, oh well, we really need something to punch up this part of the act. We think that could help. Like, all right, let me put it to you this way: if you do that, I'm gonna sue you because you're using my name and you're using my book, and that's gonna ruin my reputation. I can't fucking do that. So they backed out of that. And then another point was there's a part in the movie where she gets, I don't remember, I haven't seen the movie in so long, but whether this happens in the movie or not, but they said there's a part in the script where after her first day, they make her cry and she runs out of the classroom and she's like, I wouldn't fucking do that. Like, what do you mean you wouldn't fucking do that? Those kids are mean. Like, did you read my book? I'm a fucking Marine. So it's one of those things where it's like people, and they said they had like a guy, like, what was it, like, I don't know, I didn't explain what the guy looks like, but they had like a street kidologist or something like that, like some made up bullshit job where it's just like, I know how kids on the street talk, and they went to that guy rather than going to her or going to actual kids, that were like what the movie was aimed at. And another thing they did was in the book, she tried to reach out to the kids about writing and all that, and she says, you know what, you guys can go on and bring in hip hop and talk about like whatever albums you like, whatever, like, Tupac, whatever. And that actually got them engaged and more involved in writing.
Yeah.
And then the movie, what they do is like, hey, I know you kids like, all you kids in the inner city like Bob Dylan. Just like, yeah, a bunch of inner city kids like Bob Dylan.
Like some old white guy at the time. Because even in the 80s, that guy, in a sense, that was still like, oh, that old man singing about like his life and fighting for stuff. Fuck that guy. You know what I mean? Like, no kid's gonna like that unless it's like an inner city kids of like a bunch of like 60s hipsters, maybe.
Yeah, so it was like one of those things like Bob Dylan. She gets these kids interested into like riding through Bob Dylan. I love Bob Dylan.
I haven't seen that movie in like 10 plus years, if not even longer than that. Because I know that movie's always like the go-to for like how extremely different you can get from like the book to like the movie.
Well, that's also one of those other parts where like killing off someone didn't happen. Like there's the one kid who like got killed off because he's like, oh man, these guys are out to shoot me. All right, go to the principal's office. Like, oh, I didn't talk to him. Why? Because he walked in without knocking. Fuck that beaner. Like, oh, what? It very much has that fucking vibe. And then like in real life, the guy had like the guy like went to the Marines, got decorated. He's married, has 3 kids, living a successful life. And it's just, the movie just played like, yep, goofy little like gangbanger got shot. Not a big deal. Like, oh, it's sad.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like it's like if you want to make a movie so radically different, just write your own movie. It's like, what I mean? You're at the point that you're like, you're not even only do an adaptation if you truly actually enjoy the source material. If you don't enjoy the source material, I think it's so weird to do an adaptation. I mean, we see it all the time, but yeah, it's a bizarre one.
I mean, I can understand like changing some things to a certain. I mean, there are times I've seen like adaptations that don't really bother me. Then where it is pretty different, but I guess there's enough there. Like Edge of Tomorrow. I think that movie does some things better than the book, and I think the book does some things better than the movie. I think between those two things, I mean, I guess that's fiction. It's not a real life story.
Yeah,
so it's a little different.
But yeah, it's like there's a time and a place when you can sort of change things, because sometimes I think there's some you get an adaptation where they're like they fix problems that like the first one kind of had, and they make it even better. But lots of times, I think once you get to the point where it's almost you can tell somebody just does not care at all about the source material, they're only using that as like a selling point.
Yeah, well,
That's when it
that's
becomes a
how.
problem. But I think for that Tupac movie, I mean, okay, yeah, there might be some weird little things in there and so on, but I don't know. Compared to like all when I like compare all these like other stories of these movies and like line them up, they seem to be fine. It's not like some movies where like you watch, I'm like, what the fuck? There was a movie I was watching. Oh no, it was the Ip Man movies, where like I started getting confused because once you started watching the different versions of them, it's like his wife died different ways in each one. So I'm like, well, what's the fucking truth? Tell me what's the truth. Oh, I'm confused.
There's the Grand Master, which tries to be as historic, as far as I know, tries to be incredibly historically accurate. And that one, I saw that one. I mean, I know it's probably a little bit more the fictitious one, but it was still a good movie.
Yeah, I still like that one.
Grandmaster was still good, but Ip Man with Donnie Yen, that's the go-to. That's the good. That one's just way more fun.
I like the way that like his wife dies in I think it's Ip Man 3. I like that way. It's just it's definitely much more of a movie way of going out. But
and how's it in Ip Man 3? Is it a heroin overdose like it is in the or heroin addiction like it was in Grandmaster? The other one is
just like she died. Like I think it's in the Grandmaster's the one where she's like just like dies and it's like over the phone like, oh yeah, by the way, your wife died because, which that probably is more realistic. Like, oh, I was out here trying to do this and that for my family, and as I was gone, my wife passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably is more accurate. But I like in Ip Man 3, it's like his wife's really sick and she's dying and everything like that. And he's supposed to do this big fight. And he actually said, he's like, you know what? I'm not going to do this fight. I'm going to go spend time with my wife. And so they go dancing and they have a really good time. And like, they're almost like on a little vacation. And then she like passes away later on after. It's like a real touching moment. But like, you could tell that that's probably way more written in like that. Because that's just not how things happen. Real life shit just like happens. And it's just like, oh, fuck. Sorry, honey, I couldn't get back in 6 months. Apparently, you're dead now. Oh, so
Japan has no. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I like the way in Ip Man storytelling wise. I think the way in Ip Man 3, I like that way more.
I was gonna say Japan almost slipped out. My bad. China has no problem altering like their own like historical figures past for the sake of making a movie more interesting. There's the Bruce Lee movie, not the Rob
Dragon.
Cohen one, not Dragon. There's the one that's it's like. I think it stars Bruce L.I. Bruce Lie. Yeah, because his life's a fucking lie. He's not the real Bruce. It stars that guy. And it's one of those ones where it's like all right, they have a little bit of the things in San Francisco at the beginning, like, hey, we don't want you teaching white people. This is I'll teach you what I want. They have a fight, and the fight's a little bit more grander, but whatever, cool, whatever.
Yeah, that's okay. I feel like
that's fine, yeah. And then then like suddenly he has a wife and kid. How do you meet him? Don't fucking worry about it. He said he's filming in Rome. He's filming Way of the Dragon. And at some point between takes, some girl comes over. He says like, oh yeah, I'm a big fan. My father would like to meet you. She says, get in the fucking limousine. Like, oh, this is a lot. You're doing a lot just to get an autograph. Ha ha ha. They go to the fucking Coliseum and there he fights like this guy. He's like, I lost a lot of money on you and I'm fucking bet. So now you're going to fucking pay for that. And then they get into a fight, beats him down. And the guy's like, oh, wow, you truly are a legend. You will bring peace to your people. So it was just basically a series of him being on a set, someone challenging him knocking the fuck out of those guys. It was one of the only ones, though, where it's just like, oh, this is how he died. What was it? Brain aneurysm. And they actually kind of showed it. But then it also did this thing like, here's other theories of people think how he really did die. He's just
it's like almost like Wayne's World. Like they go back and like, let's do the other ending. Let's do the
like
super
Clue.
Happy ending.
It does that, or it does like the Clue thing, where it says, but this is what really happened. It's just he's just like strolling, walking on home one day, and then all of a sudden, like 5 guys jump out of nowhere with swords, slash them, they run off. It's just like, or the other theory is he's not really dead, and he will be back in 20 years. Went off to train in the mountains, or you just see him with a backpack just strolling out into the woods.
I kind of like that they kind of go with it. Like I have to give them credit there for that.
Yeah. So, and then you had
I'll say this, in the Tupac movie, they definitely don't do that, where it's like, let's go through the 3 different endings.
With people that think Tupac's still alive in an underground bunker because he just keeps on coming out with stuff.
Well, yeah, he's one of those other guys. He's like Jimi Hendrix. He has more albums after he died than he does when he was alive.
Well, you just look at the body of work of like Tupac and Jimi Hendrix. You're like, I am a fucking piece of shit. Look how much they got done.
Well, it's like
I'm older than they ever were, and yeah.
Well, that Tupac movie, like right when it ends, it's like Tupac. It's like he had 11 platinum albums. He starred in 9 movies. He sold 85 million albums throughout time, or whatever, or that. All when he was 25. You're like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's like, thanks for just telling me, like, what the fuck have you done, huh? What makes you so fucking special?
Well, it's also
that's how I sort of felt there.
Well, it's also one of those things that is literally kind of like a starting at the bottom and coming to the top kind of thing. So there's really no excuse. Some other rappers you could say, okay, well, someone like Drake, he went to like, not saying he's not talented or whatever. I mean, I'm not into his music, but not saying he's not talented. But he went to like art school. He was in Degrassi when he was like a teenager. So he kind of had a leg
so he
up.
was kind of like, yeah, he was kind of a little bit more privileged.
So where someone like Tupac worked his way up and got that much done, and that's just like, oh, fuck. That's just one of those things where it just makes you feel so fucking bad. Like, yeah, I got to step up my shit.
Well, it really does, because it's like, dude, the guy goes to fucking jail, makes an album that's still a platinum album. Like, it's like, fuck, it's like nothing stops this guy. He gets shot 5 times, gets back up, makes another platinum album. Like, it's almost like a very motivating movie, but almost like it's like the work of Jim Lee. It's almost too, like, you look at it, it's like, that's just too high. How am I ever going to shoot for any of this? Like, he's just, like, soaring so far above that, like, nobody can even reach him anymore.
I was thinking,
it's like,
if they both lived,
just like, oh my gosh.
If they both lived, I bet John Lennon and Tupac probably would have got along pretty well.
Probably. Because, well, it's like the cool thing about that movie is, like, it does kind of capture, because you sort of, like, if you watch, like, the Notorious movie, that's got sort of, like, one kind of version, and that's from, like, Biggie Small, which the weird thing about that guy is, like, I thought that guy originally had, like, a bunch of albums and, like, was almost, like, one of those, like, post-80s kind of, like, not as old as, like, Run DMC or Public Enemy, but kind of, like, in that same time period. But it's, like, he only had 1 album, or he had 2 albums. He had 2 albums, and the second one came out after he died.
Mm-hmm.
That one's just kind of weird. It's like, oh my god, like, Tupac had, like, fucking 11 plus albums, and he was in Digital Underground and all this stuff. And it's just like, oh my god, he's just... It's mind-blowing. Just like, dude, that's like, how do you get so much stuff done in so little time? I mean, and then top it off, he's doing like a movie he's doing like 2 movies a year. If you think about it, he's 25 years old. What, he started at like 17? And he got 9 fucking movies in that time period? Like, does Brad Pitt even have that many movies in like that short a time period?
I don't
like,
think
what
he did.
The fuck?
Yeah, I don't think he did.
No, it's like, it's ridiculous how much stuff these guys got. I think it's just probably what it is. It's just you grew up in an area where you don't have any of these like real great choices. So the second that like somebody's like offering this stuff to you left and right, you're like, fuck yeah, I want to be in a movie. Fuck yeah, I want to do more albums. I mean, I will say that I think that this always sounds kind of weird, but it's like I think a rap album it's a lot easier to come out with a rap album than it is to come out with like a full on like metal album. Just saying, just because there's like
musically,
well, because the metal album, there's like so much to go into it, and so much of the recording, and so much dialing it in, and so much of this, where a rap album is one that in a sense you're sampling stuff, so the stuff's already recorded the way you kind of want to use it. Then you just got the DJ mixing it together, maybe throwing in some other stuff, and then you just kind of find the right groove, and then you throw your lyrics on top. Not to discredit anything, but I feel like that doesn't take nearly as much time as it takes to sit down and record 5 guys, 3 guitars, drum tracks and vocals, and then getting that all like dialed in.
I just give him credit for finding the fast track on that.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant to give it, because it's like perfect example is like, well, every metal band mostly comes out if they're lucky with an album every 2 years, where like these rap guys could come out with an album like once or twice a year, and sometimes have double albums, in a year or so. But yeah, just talk about it's like, yeah, it is one of those ones. Like, I just watched it, I was like, fuck, I gotta get something done. I'm like, well, I am working as hard as I possibly can be, but Jesus Christ, I'm not getting enough done apparently.
Or like Orson Welles, how old was he when Citizen Kane came out? Like maybe 30?
25?
25? Jesus Christ, 25.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you hear that.
Well, granted, that was also a time when it's just like, you're 12, now you're going off to the war. So, I guess.
Yeah, so 25
you grew up
would
quickly.
Be like nowadays.
So,
you know what I mean?
25 would be like, 40 back then. I'm being an asshole. I'm being an asshole. I know that, No.
But no. You're not being an asshole. That's actually kind of true, though. That is sort of how it was back then. I think people just kind of got shoved into things right off the bat, and that was just kind of how life was.
You got to give credit to like Wells on that, just for like this young guy up and coming. Hey, I got invited to this nice fancy dinner. Like, oh, you know what was cool? Bullfighters. Who's saying cool things about bullfighters? I am Orson Welles. Well, I'm Rupert Murdoch. You're a fucking idiot. Bullfighters are assholes. I'm gonna fuck this guy's life up. He insulted me at this fucking party. My movie that I can do anything with, it's gonna just be tearing this guy down. You know? Imagine that. You can make whatever you want, and some guy gives you shit at a dinner party, and your whole the thing you could do anything with is like, fuck that guy and his whole empire. Fuck his wife, fuck his mom.
Well, it's good because Randolph Hearst is like really like the epitome of all evil of California.
He was evil, yeah.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. His house is cool to go look at, but other than that, though, that guy represents like everything hateful that you can have in like big business Republicanness.
Oh, I know, but I just think it's funny. Just the thing you could have done anything with that budget, and he says like, "I'm going to just bring this motherfucker down." Why? He made fun of me at his party. Laugh at my joke. Guy.
That's okay. That's reason enough sometimes, I think, especially in the 1940s. What the heck?
Don't let this next statement be taken out of context. But hate can breed some amazing things sometimes.
well, yeah, because it's an emotion, and that's lots of times how like if there was no emotion, you would never generate really technically art. Because you think about it. Why does a story come out? It's because you get angry at something. You're like, fuck those. Like, what I mean? Like, I got like, sometimes it's like I think of like bitter old fuck episodes, and it's like you see somebody doing something like shitty, like littering or something like that. You're like, fuck that guy. You know what I would do is like, what if we just beat the shit out of that guy, took that fucking washer that he dumped out there, shove his body in there, drop it off on his front porch, knock on the door, have his fucking kid come out while you light it on fucking fire, and you say, when you grow up, if you want to come to me, I'll be there to challenge you.
Leave a knife.
Sometimes you get those emotions.
Just drop a knife right in the porch. I'll be waiting.
Exactly. So there is those like moments, like it's like no matter what, that's the only way you get stimulated. It's like, so also the same thing can happen too is if you have a really funny moment where you like laugh real hard and like, oh dude, that'd make for a fucking great joke. Write that shit down. Or, anything else. Like even tragedies lots of times can be like, sometimes they're like, oh dude, we had this like horrible car accident, but it made for this great story. You never know. Sometimes that's how it works.
I'm forgetting the actor's name, but he's the guy that plays Dinesh on Silicon Valley. He has a movie coming out. I don't know if it's directed by Judd Apatow or just produced by him, but he has a movie coming out based on a true story about how he's a Pakistani guy, came to America. He was in an arranged marriage, but met his wife and decided to just, kind of like break it off, like say, hey, with his family, look, I met the girl of my dreams. I want to marry her. And then shortly after that, she goes into a coma, and it's just while she's in a coma, he's dealing with his family and her family and just kind of the awkwardness. And as tragic as it sounds, apparently it's really funny. So,
well, see, that's what I mean. It's like sometimes you can take those kind of tragic moments and sometimes funny stuff comes out of them. That's the old classic thing where, somebody falls down the stairs. Like, that's not really a good thing, but it's funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, and a lot of times moments where like everything goes like awry, like in hindsight, you kind of look back on it and you go, even though everything didn't go all the way intended, it's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm sure like, but yeah, no. So I'm sorry, I'm not feeling it today, but no, I always use the excuse my caffeine is running low, and I know I say it all the time, but it's fucking true. No, but I see what you're saying though. There is sometimes those the weird like inspiration come from the weirdest places. So I don't know. I can think of some bad things that happened to me that kind of really helped out in some scripts that I was working on. So
exactly. So mostly, generally, I always feel like I always like to look at the positive in just about everything. Everything can be like a life learning experience that you just got to put forward, and that makes you better. Why not? Like, what the heck?
Yep. Seems a good place to land out on.
Land out on?
Yeah. Caffeine's out. Yeah. Land out on her.
I didn't take pre-workout today, and I noticed there was like a big difference in my day. Like I got this new pre-workout. It's what the fuck is it called? It's called it's by CT Fletcher, and it's like you can't really sell this in regular stores because right on the thing it's like, what flavor is this? Motherfucking watermelon.
You're telling me about this, like Compton cotton candy.
Yeah, then there's like Compton cotton candy and all that kind of stuff. And it's like on the back, it's just like, take this shit, bitch. Fucking you take this every day until you can't fucking work out anymore. And then you take a fucking break like a pussy, and then you get back to taking it again.
You're not going to see this on the paid for programming network at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Dude, you won't even see this in GNC. It's too like the ingredients are too hardcore. And I don't know what it is. This sounds weird, but all like black guys that make pre-workout, I don't know what half the ingredients are ever on them. There was a time period where I used to know everything I was getting when I'd buy one of these, and now these new ones like the Yeah Buddy and this one, I don't know what's in it. It's like I look at the back, I'm like, okay, caffeine, I know what that is, and then the rest of the stuff, it's like beats the hell out of me.
Monkey prostate, okay.
Work. Yeah, it's like, boy, does it work. But yeah,
like,
it made a difference. Like today, I was all lethargic, and to the point where it's like, well, I mean, it's already like a fucking 100 and something degrees out, so that's not helping anything. But it's just like, oh yeah, I guess I should work on something. I'll get over there and drawing. Well, that drawing doesn't look so good. I guess I'll get something to eat. It's like, I do know there's a big difference when I don't like work out and when I don't take pre-workout. Because you take pre-workout and you're like, I could fucking flip over a rock today. And then it just all goes away without it. It's sad, really.
So is today a pre-workout day?
No, I didn't take pre-workout today. I just took the day off from working out.
I'm just imagining just like that. Like
I don't like taking the day off of working out, but like, you know, it's like I feel like it's probably good for your body, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember back when we went to the gym back in class 5. I remember I'd be like, "Hey Spencer, what should I do if I did this?" You were almost kind of like my unofficial like trainer. Like I just kind of asked, like, "I worked on my legs today. What should I do today?" Well, don't do your legs again. Just do your arms. Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones like I like working. Like I could literally work out like every single day, just for the fact that it makes the rest of my day really good. You know, and when I don't work out, it's like you just feel like lazy. I felt like, or should just go lay in bed and maybe read a book or something. I don't know what else to do.
Not trying to
It's
promote...
all hot and sweaty out, and it's like misty.
Not trying to promote like being like procrastination, but I feel like every so often you kind of need those days where it's just like a day or two where you're not doing literally anything. Because I honestly think you could get burnt out and like you can have trouble finding like... It's hard to keep that like flow of inspiration constantly going. I mean, you can get it going frequently and regularly, but it's hard to always have it going strong. So I think there's a day or two. I mean, I'll be honest. I feel like I sometimes need like 1 to 3 days where I'm just like, I didn't get none of that done, and I almost feel bad about it, and I just kind of like hate myself for it. And so then when those 3 days are up, I end up just crank out more than I would have if I just, just was going through the motions. Like, okay, a little bit of lines here, a little bit of coloring in there, a little bit of writing here. You know what I mean? Because I feel like if you're forcing yourself to do it, sometimes you got to force yourself. But sometimes I feel like you're just going through the motions. You need to almost kind of re-get that passion for it by doing something different or just breaking away from it for a moment.
Yeah, well, you can't force yourself in art. I don't think that's real. You just don't get good material when that happens.
I feel like you have to force it out, not saying it's an end product, just force it out so you could, because a little bit of bad work is better than no work. But I still feel that there are those couple of days you just need to like, all right, dude, not today. I just need to be brain dead for a minute and play like Zelda or something.
And it's like, well, myself, it's like I mostly like pretty much almost like, see, because I have the problem with like not taking too many breaks. Like I feel like I probably should take more breaks than necessary, because I'll work like generally like 7 days straight where I don't do anything but just work on projects. Because like and work out. Like I kind of put 2 and 2 together. Like I work out, then I can work on my projects all fucking day long, and I don't really have a problem with it. But I do think that like once in a while it's good to have like one lazy day. I don't really need to have more than that. I don't feel there's enough time in life to have more than one lazy day a week, if that even. But like, one of those days where you're like, what are you gonna do today? Fuck it. I'm gonna read a bunch of comics. I'm gonna catch up maybe on some of my movies, maybe play a couple games, and then also like take a day off of working out too at the same time. Like literally just do a day where you're like, don't do fucking yard work. Don't do fucking anything where you're lifting something. Just like really let your body like relax and cool off. Take a fucking long ass nap in the middle of the day and really recharge, because sometimes that makes a big difference. Like then the next 6 days, you're fucking back in business. You can get things going and really start working hard on everything, both your workouts and your creative projects and anything else you do. Like there is something to be said about that. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I always get to the point, like I have this like conflicting part of my mind where it's like, but you're running out of time. It's like, well, you got to get this done. Like, oh yeah, I got to fucking get this done. Like I have a hard time like Especially the older I get, like I have a harder and harder time of like
Every day seems like a missed
just like
opportunity.
yeah, like I can't really relax as much. I even have a hard time like sitting down playing video games sometimes, or even just like I can't even watch like TV or like movies during the day. I don't watch TV, but I can't watch like even I don't like watching a movie during the day because I feel like right then and there that's gonna like make the rest of my day like that's it.
Mm.
Like I save all my stuff till like the pretty much right before I go to bed. That's about the only time I watch something. You know, I use comics mostly as like that's like a creative break. You know what I mean? You could read like one issue, and you know what that takes you 10 to 15 or 20 minutes, give or take, on which size it is. And then after that, lots of times you're like, fuck, I'm ready to start creating again.
Yeah, and don't take it as me just being like, yeah, you gotta be lazy, just let it come to you, and it happens when it happens. Hopefully it doesn't come across that way. What I'm mainly saying is I feel like, 'cause I agree with just about everything you're saying right there. I'm more saying in the context of I find myself like when I feel stressed out and overworked, I almost kind of find myself going through the motions rather than actually being inspired to actually work on the things I'm doing. And that can come out with lackluster work. So every so often, you just kind of need those 2 days or so where you just 1 or 2 days or even 3 days if you're being really bad. I'm not saying you should do it frequently.
Yeah, and I'm always afraid to go more than 2 days would be too much for me because the second that you go past
it's also
3
just
days,
my day job though. That's the other big part of it. Just my fucking,
yeah, you got that problem too. It's because those crappy hours.
Yeah.
Those hours fuck you.
Yeah, I've
like
gone
when you have like 12-hour days, like that doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
But it's one of those ones like I don't like to go more than 3 days because with creativity, or it's like anything. It's I guess you could say with drugs or any. It's like a video game is a perfect example too. You know, you can go. Okay, we'll use a video game for example, but it works with art. It works with I think it works with alcohol and drugs too even. But you can literally say like, okay, we're playing a video game, and you take 1 day off, you could jump right back in that video game, no sweat. You take 2 days off, and you go, man, I kind of want to play that game, but I don't have to get to it right away. You take 3 days off, and the next thing you know, by the time day 4 rolls around, you almost don't even care anymore. For all you know, you could be starting something brand new and never even get back to whatever you're doing. So that's why I always have a fear of going longer. Like I don't like to go longer than mostly like 2 days maximum between like creativity or anything like that. Because the second is once you hit that 3rd day, and then if you go into the 4th day, it's tough to get back in the groove. And that's where I feel like that's where you're kind of screwed right now, is because you're just stuck with those 12-hour plus shifts, which it just pretty much kills creativity. It's like somebody must just come up to you and just stab you in the nuts with a fucking knife and just say, fuck you, you ain't making shit today.
Well, I almost got to do this thing because sometimes my routine, sometimes when I get home, is like, well, first off, make dinner. And then after that, I'll like lay down on the couch, lay down on my bed for a minute, and just like, I'm just gonna watch one Game Grumps video or one Double Toasted review or just something, just one. And if I do that, I'm not getting back.
Oh
up.
yeah,
I gotta eat dinner and then I gotta go work on something. Because if I lay down on my bed just to watch one 10-minute video,
that's it.
It's gone. It's because it becomes one more, becomes one more, becomes one more after that. So it's like I literally just gotta go home, make something, then go straight to my computer and try and get at least an hour in. So
well, that's why I hate when people I hate watching a movie during the middle of the day, because that instantly, I think because my body's just so used to watching movies at night, that's kind of like my body's like, oh fuck, we're going to bed now. Oh fuck it, you ain't doing shit now. You watched a movie during the middle of the day. Well, fuck you. That's it. Even if I go to like the movie theaters, like I come home, I'm like, I feel like I'm burnt out. I just did like a whole day's worth of like errands and trips and everything. And it's like, what'd you do? Well, I literally sat in front of a screen that had flashing lights and sound, but for some reason that wore me out.
Yeah, that could happen.
Or like a video game. Video games are also a scary one too. It's like if I start a video game like at noon, it's just like might as well fucking call that the end of the day, because you ain't going anywhere past that point. Every once in a while you can pull out of it. Like sometimes you can play a video game like really early in the morning, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I put a couple hours in, and now I felt like I actually got it out of my system. Now I'm ready to create. But if you do that like in the dead center of the day, I mean, some people are different. I mean, we can all do things different ways. But to me, if I do that in the dead center of the day, it's like might as well just call it the end.
I had a little bit of that today. I managed to get out of it though. I had to go into town to grab my paycheck, so I had to ride into town. But before that, though, I was like, oh, shit, my phone's almost dead. Well, I should probably let it charge, better be safe. And you're like, well, I guess I could play my Switch up until then. And I actually managed to get out of it, though. I was a little afraid that I was just going to, get lost in Hyrule. Sure enough, I came out of it, though. I think that's one thing with this new Zelda game is the temples aren't very immediate, and you got to go search for the temples. So that, because the thing about what always gets me in Zelda is getting stuck in a temple. My thing is I'm trying to level them up, so temples be a lot easier when I actually go into them.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about that game though is that one's really easy to go. Okay, just one more temple, one more temple. The next thing you know, you've done like 15 in a fucking row. You're like, oh fuck.
Mm-hmm. Or you realize, oh, I don't have the right item or enough endurance to get over to that area, so fuck, I got to go over here now. Yeah.
Yeah, but and it's not saying anything against that stuff because I feel it's all like motivational things. But I feel like it's like timing. It's like there's a time and a place for so many things, and that's where I kind of look at like lining up my sort of like I don't know. It's also where I feel like almost like if you have to have a day job, you almost want to have it like at nighttime rather than morning if you want to create, because it's way easier to wake up and create a bunch of stuff than it is to go through like a day's worth of work and then come home burnt out and like maxed out to the point where it's like fuck it, because that's so tough.
When I was working on Grit, I was the comic I used to make. I was doing the closing shift at a restaurant, so that would give me half the day to just kind of go get some drawings done, and I was way more productive then than I was like right now. That's for
Well,
sure.
it's because you got the mornings.
And
That's the thing is that I think that morning and afternoon is such a stronger time period than at nighttime.
mhm.
You know, and I'm not saying that, you know, once again, some people can work at nighttime, but I think a lot of times the people that work really well at nighttime don't have that hard of jobs. Like, if you had a job that, like, you were fucking Randall and your feet were kicked up on the counter, like, renting out VHSs, yeah, you could go home at night and fucking not have a problem whatsoever. But I think if you have a job that, like, just strains you, I mean, not saying it's not impossible, but it's one of those ones, like, everything is working against you.
When you're going over like tour maps of a city all day and
It's
telling people
hot
what's the
out.
safest, what's the safest place to ride in, and then you got to bring a bunch of like displays out, put them all away. It takes like an hour and a half to get them all out there, hour and a half to put them all away, and then a 30-minute bike ride home.
Yeah, it's just a mind
after.
melting job. So it's like in creativity, you need that freshness. That's where sometimes like when you have jobs that are kind of like simple, it sounds kind of even goofy. But like if you're just doing like, let's just say like you're sweeping or like you're raking or something like that. Like if that was your job, like boy, go out there and rake that field. Lots of times something like that that's not so labor intensive and hard, you almost can sit there and think and get things going. But once you start having to like, oh fuck, I got to plan this out, got to get this ready, got to get these calculations going. Next thing you know, it's like you're burning out your brain too, as well as like your body. So you can't even work on anything. And you need that for like creativity. I think some people don't always like a lot of times get that. It's like, I really don't think you can make art and then work like a 40+ hour job unless that is art itself.
Yeah. Well, I will say I think it's one of those things where I do feel like that, people need to be outside their comfort zone. And sometimes these weirder, more obscure jobs, like the one I have, like I'm basically going over tour guide stuff, and then renting bikes out to people. That's my job right now, and my day job. And that in itself right there, I mean, I've been doing it for like almost 3 years now. And I feel like I've kind of had every best kind of customer and every worst kind of customer. And out of that, I feel like I've kind of, I don't know, I feel like that I probably got everything I could get from this job. So regarding that though, I think that initially the first year and a half or maybe even 2 years, I'm kind of learning new set of skills. And I think it definitely helped me because I was doing things I was never doing before. And I was really outside my comfort zone. Now it kind of is my comfort zone. And it's kind of like, all right, what more can I get from this thing? So it's just a matter of being able to like just make time for other things now, trying to get what's that next step,
Well, I used to always have a saying back in the day that when it came to like if you're just working just like a regular job, like something that's not progressing you career or anything like that, you almost should, no matter how comfortable you get with it, is after 2 years just instantly quit. Just instantly quit. Don't even think about what's coming up in the future. Just do that, because what you're saying to yourself is that I'm not going to get comfortable and I'm not going to get stuck here, because that's always kind of the downfall. Is I think it is. It's like once you start off initially, it's even if it's not like the greatest thing, you are learning some like maybe random skills that you might not get other places. That's where I think that lots of times really rich people, like they miss out on these skills because they never had to work like a regular job and interact with people and so on. But you kind of get that. But pretty much after about a year, maybe 2 years maximum, you got everything you got out of it. There's not really a whole lot more you're going to possibly learn that's new other than maybe some random occurrences. So that's why I've always thought that's like, dude, that's the thing to do. 2 years in, boom, just instantly quit. just assume that you'll find something else. You live in a fucking America. That's how I look at it. You live in America. What's the worst that's really going to happen? You know, it's not like you're in some other country where it's like, this is the only job I can get. It's like, no, you know, the world.
If I'm homeless for more than 2 months, they'll hunt me down and kill me.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of those ones. Like in America, it's like realistically, like not having a job, the government will fucking give you money so you can find something else. I mean, that's like worst case scenario. And it's really not bad compared to like other stuff. So I sometimes always feel like, hey, if it's not like, in a sense, a career, because that's like, I feel like that's the difference between career and job. And I hate how like places like, I love how fast food restaurants like to call them careers. I'm like, dude, that is not a fucking career. That is a job. Like, you know what I mean? A career is something that's going to like take you farther. You know what I mean? Like you're going to progress. You know what I mean? Like you ain't going to work at KFC and one day be the CEO of fucking KFC. You know, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a time where they could advertise that. Now, most time you could like, oh, I could be manager of this particular store, maybe regional manager, but even that in itself sounds sad. I'm not sure if I said this on the podcast, but last time I was visiting Sonora, I forgot my phone charger, and my phone was about to die, and it was like late at night. I'm like, okay, I should probably run over to Walmart just because it's the only thing open and grab a phone charger. On my way in, I saw, you're like, where's he going with this? On my way in, I saw like 6 people in Walmart outfits, a couple of them smoking, laughing, having a good time. Something I've never seen someone in a blue Walmart vest ever do. And it was just like, good for you guys. Good for you guys. And I didn't stop and say that to him. I just kept walking. I was like, good for them, you know. And as I went in, there's this tall guy, glasses, bald, thick mustache, name tag, just in like, you know, collared shirt. Like, now you listen here, they can't be doing that out there. That is against company policy. If someone saw that right now, they could be instantly fired just like that. Just like that. And this is not tolerable at all. You know, I'm just like,
fuck you,
man,
buddy.
I would not even care. I myself would not even care. As a customer, I did not care that I saw.
No,
it.
you're actually happy
it humanized.
It
humanized them. I didn't see these people like this dead-eyed stare, like, welcome to Walmart.
Like soulless, like goblins, just like petering around,
they were
carrying stuff, you know, back and forth.
It's like, it's one of those things. They weren't busy. It was like 10:30 at night, and I'm just then later as I'm leaving, I see that same guy losing his shit over a display. Like, no, the display has to be facing exactly this way so people see it when they come in. They can still see the logo. No, corporate says they want it. And just like, now granted, this guy, he's probably just doing his job, but at the same exact
he's
time,
doing it too much by the books. Let's just say that.
When you see like Captain Walmart tells me what I must do, when it's to that level, it's like, dude, you're like losing your shit over a company that does not give a fuck about you. And it's just one of those things, like, you know, Sam Walton isn't going to come from the grave and like say, good job, you know? So it's like, when you see that kind of shit, like, I understand that, like, you know, okay, there could be, you might be able to work off at like bottom and then work your way up to maybe middle management or something like that, or regional management, maybe. But even that, like, still doesn't seem that fun.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, you can work your way up. I mean, that's just called a promotion, but that's not a career.
You don't get CEO.
Yeah, that's not a career. Like, that guy's job, even if he's manager of the fucking Walmart store, that is not a fucking career. That is a job at the end of the day that should be projecting you to somewhere higher. I mean, I don't want to put people down that have jobs. I mean, like, sometimes that's all you can get, but I just feel, don't get a job confused with a career. You know, a career is something that's supposed to take you to new places every single fucking year. All kinds of stuff. You're not going to do the same thing over and over again. And I think sometimes that's the thing, is people, they take the easy route of just going like, oh, I'll just make this job into a career, and after 20 years, I'll be able to get my retirement check from Sam, and next thing you know, I'll be living the good life. And I think that's a horrible way to look at things, too. Like, I think retirement is also a bad way to look. I mean, there's a time and a place for retirement. Like, if you work in, like, a coal mine, that's the only thing you look for.
We're probably not getting retirement.
No, well, I don't look at, to me, it's like one of those ones, artists should never look at retirement. Like, the idea of, like, an artist, like, retiring is, like, why? It's like, to me, like, this is what I consider an artist retiring, is when you die. That's called retiring. It's like, it's so weird. I mean, I know there's some people out there, I think they just never cared for it as much. They like it, but they almost took it more as like, hey, that's my fucking job, not my career. You know, I look at like Stan Lee. Like Stan Lee fucking never stops. You ever see Stan Lee stop? No, he's never going to stop until the day he dies.
For a long he's been working, that's probably what's been keeping him alive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that keeps you going much longer. Because the worst part too is like, dude, me, Kyle, and Laura, we were eating fucking pizza the other day, and we were like at Round Table and shit, and fucking there was all these like senior citizens there, and I just kind of looked at them, and we just like looked like, dude, I do not fucking want to be that. Where like, you probably haven't lifted your fucking finger in like 30 years to do shit. You just kind of did this like retirement thing, and now you're just like sucking off the system and not contributing at all back to it. It's like, I just feel like you should just, I mean, like, once again, there is a job. Like, okay, if you're a coal miner, you definitely look forward towards retirement. And I feel like by the time you get there, you definitely deserved it. There is a certain place for it. But for the most part, it's like, don't you want to like the idea of just like going home and not doing anything and just sitting around and lounging. And I don't know, I feel like I would feel like such a bad person that was not contributing anything by doing that.
I feel like there's a time where people would view that as like, well, you're going to be dead in 5 years. Enjoy that time with your family. And now it's like, oh, Jesus, we're so good with medication and whatnot. I mean, you know, there's some things that still are incurable, of course, but people live way longer now. And plus, with the baby boomer generation, there's so many more people. So I feel like because of that, you know, now it's like that's one reason why it's going to be harder to have retirement at our age.
Well, yeah. Once again, artists will never get that kind of retirement.
Yeah.
That like,
well, I'm not even talking about like, you know, about retirement in the aspect of like different artists and whatnot. I just mean,
Social Security.
Social Security is what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
And the way I look at it, it's like, I don't need a fucking handout from the government. I don't need my JFK check. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I wouldn't take it if it was given to me, but it's one of those ones. I like the idea of being able to, like, I hopefully hope that I can self-sustain myself as that time comes on, that I don't have to go, I don't need to get that, like, handout necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I hope that I can provide for myself that that's not even necessary, that hopefully I can give more handouts to the people that really need it. You know, it's like I always look at the best way. Like, if you were really rich, I think the way of like, instead of donating to charities and things like that, I think the best thing to do is just to go to all the mom and pop stores and buy big there. Or, you know, you go to a restaurant and it's like those really sweet, like small, maybe like little town cafe or anything like that. You fucking tip big at those places. You show some respect.
Yeah.
You know, I always think that's the best way to make your money go round and to really like help out a community.
Mm-hmm. And there's also regarding that, like as you're talking about earlier about you saw like some bunch of older people, like I don't want to be that. You know, you get that fear. You get that fear. I'll say a couple things. I mean, you get that fear when you see like an older person, like, man, I don't want to let life pass me by. Who knows what that lady or that guy did? But you can only imagine like reaching a certain point, not knowing you can't go back. Man, this got too deep. But anyway, still, regardless of that, though, I honestly believe that when you're younger and you see an old person, you'll be like, what the fuck? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be wheeled around in the chair. But I think there's two things we're also not to keep in mind. Like, because I had a grandma who went to a retirement home, and I got this total sense of like, man, this is just kind of sad. I'm just seeing all these old people that are just like, you know, there's even one time I talked to her like, hey, Nana, how's it going? I'm doing okay. Lord didn't take me today. I'm just like, oh, fuck. All right.
Just like, Ryan, are you going to take me? I got a 357 at the old house. Yeah. You know where it's at? Here's the key for it.
It's just,
Ryan,
yeah.
I'll give you a $20 bill if you come back. Think of all the ice cream you can get, Ryan. Huh?
Give you a Tootsie Roll. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I've had it since 1976.
Don't lie. I know you want it, you fat fuck. No, my grandma, she was very nice.
You kind of want it, but
I probably did. No, she was very nice. She never said that, but she was just kind of like when she stayed over at our place one time. Okay, like it was after like, you know, a big medical thing. Like, okay, Nana, see you in the morning. Yeah, maybe. It's like, you know, I mean, I was traumatized at the time. Looking back, I'm like, oh my god.
See, this was remember how we explained earlier how like sometimes things that like happen seem traumatizing, but in hindsight they're kind of funny.
Well, it's like I got off topic there, but anyway, I was gonna say, seeing that right there, it's like I just remember going in there just being like, oh man, this looks so depressing. Just kind of waiting. Then I started thinking about it, like, and I've said something similar to this before. I think it may have been when the Painted Black guys were on. But I think that when we get older, we'll probably have progressed with the times a little bit more. Maybe not in every single aspect, but to a certain degree, just because we're all way more connected now through media and technology. Whether we agree with certain things or not, that's always going to be debatable. But I think we're going to be way more connected with everything. And because of that, I mean, when we get older, retirement homes, it's just going to be a bunch of people playing fucking Xbox and people on their phones all day. We're going to be, that's not going to go away. It's not going to turn into like, like Gregory and Ethel playing bridge at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, watching The Price is Right. It's not going to turn into that. I mean, it may be people stuck to a fucking computer or to a TV, but it's going to be something that's just because they didn't grow up with the shit we had. So that's why, like, we don't need that. Keep that bullshit away from us. We're going to have that shit when we get older. So, and who knows, maybe by that point, it's just like, oh, that spine you had trouble with? Oh, we got you this robot spine. So now you can walk up straight, no worries. Oh, now you can actually go jogging when you're 70 again because we got you these nice robot legs.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, hopefully technology will be there. And I definitely think, yeah, it'll, by that standard, it'll be much better. I think it's the idea of just being like, because here's the thing, and this sounds like, this is going to sound like such, like, ageist or something like that, but, like, in the olden days, the reason why you had to keep old people around was because they were the way of linking, like, the past to the future. They were the ones that had stories of, like, remember at the great battle of the big bulge of my cock? Grandpa, that's not how the story went. Well, that's how it's going now, you fuck. Write it down in the book so you can actually remember. It's like, Jesus Christ, why are we keeping these old people alive?
Like a History Channel special on that shit.
Yeah. What? Go give me my spear so I can go chuck it at you, you faggot. It's like, Jesus Christ, Grandpa.
Grandpa, the war's over. The war's never over.
Never over. You know how many other Indians I stabbed? Yeah, Grandpa, you told us. 1,000. Like, yeah, we don't think that's the real number, though. But, like, okay, back in the day, that was the whole thing, is they passed the stories down, which, sadly enough, a senior citizen nowadays, I always hate to say this, but, like, they're really obsolete. There is no reason for them anymore. And I don't mean that, like, in a bad way. It's like, don't say anything against, like that, but it's like, literally, think about it. Like, practical-wise, there is no reason for them. Everything's recorded in history. We don't need them to tell us the story of the olden days. We already know. When they come up and tell us, like, oh, you know what, old Joe Frank down at the auto shop, across the corner from Steve's place that used to be there. Don't need that anymore. That's all recorded history if we want to look that up. We can even figure out who this Joe Frank is that we always keep hearing about and don't know anything about. But the thing is, it's like they're almost like are so obsolete. That's why I hate when there's like almost like senior citizens and they feel entitled to things, because it's one of the ones like, dude, you shouldn't be entitled. You should be grateful somebody fucking keeps you alive in this country. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a fuck. You are not serving any cause, and nobody gives a flying fuck what you did 40 years ago. Because here's the thing, it ain't fucking 40 years ago anymore. It's like, there's certain people that can get away with it, but for a lot of people, it's like, dude, you should just be super fucking grateful that somebody is paying for you to sit on your ass all day long and watch fucking TV. Because here's the thing, you have no purpose anymore. You serve no cause. If you disappeared, wouldn't make a fucking difference anymore. You know what? We'd actually be getting more money if you disappeared. And it sounds horrible. When you say things like that, it sounds fucking horrible. As I said, it sounds ageist. It sounds like all this stuff. But, like, you think about it, it's totally true. I mean, I know that in the old-fashioned world was all, it's like, well, you work your 40 years in there, and then you get retirement, or it's even less than that. You work your 30 years, you get your retirement, and then you get to enjoy the good life. And it's like, okay, I see what they mean by that, but I think nowadays it's like times have changed a little bit, where it's like I feel like you should still be contributing, and you shouldn't be expected, and like that people are going to be at your beck and call to give you whatever you want, whatever you need, and that people should be able just to help you jiffy on the spot without fucking like setting a schedule or anything like that. I don't know what it is. It's like once like when you're fucking retired and you got all the time in the world, shit happens when it does, not when you want to. Because here's the thing, you ain't contributing anymore to stuff, so you just shouldn't get things just instantaneously.
I'll say, I imagine if any elderly person hears this show, they imagine you being the guy like in a leather jacket snapping his fingers like, what you doing here, old timer? Just like kind of walking in circles around him, snapping his fingers like Jazz Hand pulls out like a switchblade. Well, give me that social security check, old man. No.
Yeah, you don't need it.
But I was gonna say, well, another thing is, I feel like, I mean, I don't think, obviously doesn't need, I don't think I need to say it, but I'll say it anyway. I don't think all old people, because there are those that are just like very entitled. Like, I did my time. This is for me now. I think a lot of people, when they just get to a certain age, they just realize there's more behind them than there is ahead of them. So they just get kind of like, fuck it. Why is this not working now? This should be working now. I fucking did my part. I did my time. And I feel like people just have that to them. I'm not sure if that's ever going to go away. Hopefully it does, but I just feel like that is something. And that's not with all retired people or all older people, obviously, but I have definitely seen that. I know some older retired people who I've dealt with and met before have had this sense of like, well, just have this sense of like, since they're not moving on the same schedule as everyone else, like everything. I'm sorry, can't get my words out properly today. Since they're not working on the same level as everybody else, time moves differently for them. They have no problem taking their time, or they have no problem having it become immediately to them. Like I've dealt with that before, you know.
Yeah, well, I just kind of hate that, like, that thing where it's like, I want it done here and now. Or, like, the other thing that bothers me, too, is when people go, like, they buy technology, and they don't want to learn about it. Like, I don't know what it is. It's something about, like, a lot of old people. It's like, they're fucking, like, it's almost like they just said, like, you know what? I'm fucking 70 years old. I don't need to learn anymore. And then it's like, well, if that's the case, don't fucking buy yourself a new fucking TV that you can't fucking work. Because here's the fucking thing. Now I'm going off.
I got
this,
some
like,
time
hate
to
race.
Comcast. I'm guessing this is where it comes from, right?
There's a lot of non-flashbacks in there. It's like, I think that, like, my hatred towards old people and dogs all comes from that. But
Dogs, really? Are you seeing?
I don't hate dogs. I just have a dislike for dogs now. I enjoy a house that has no dogs.
I never would have imagined that.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like I never thought that myself too, but I just realized it's like, oh, it's not that I dislike. I want to be like an uncle as far as like it comes to dogs. Like I want to see a dog once in a while, pet it, and everything like that. But then after that, I don't have to see it for like another couple months.
Yeah.
That's my kind of thing there. But old people, in their hands, like, they get technology and they do this thing that's like, well, I'm not young. I can't sit here and learn about this. I'm like, dude, you got fucking all the time in the fucking world to sit down and learn this shit. How do you think we learned how to do it? Trial and fucking error over time. That's how we figured it out. You got more time than anybody else. What is your fucking excuse? Do not give me that you're old, because you know what? That's not a fucking excuse. Old is never an excuse not to learn. You can learn any time of your life. And I don't know what it is. It's just that I think it's just like old people and sometimes children have like this thing where it's like they just feel like they want to throw a fit sometimes about like learning, and I don't know why that is.
Well, was it one of those things like you showing them, because you don't work there anymore, but at the time you did work there, Comcast, would you be showing them like okay, here's your cable box, here's how you get the input, like the input, what happened to the yellow, red, and white wires, like that?
Oh, the input one would always piss me off, because when people go like, oh, this input thing, it's all this new technology, oh, we don't get it, and it's just like I want to like grab them and fucking strangle them, be like, the input button has been on a fucking TV since the early 80s. Do not give me that fucking excuse that you don't know what an input button. What the fuck were you doing for the last 35 years?
Where's the A and B output? The A and B switch.
The A and B output, if like, I wish that was like, yeah, but like, yeah, people, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's just like the idea, like that's what I look at that kind of stuff. I look at those old people, because here's the thing, there is a bunch of old people out there that are fantastic people. They keep up to date. They probably know more about technology than even I do. And that's what I mean. That's the person you should strive to be. When you see these other people, these just lazy ass fucks that just don't want to do anything, but just sit around and have people serve on them like they're on a plantation or something like that, that fucking pisses me off.
I've kind of seen it where
this is Old Man Orange, the old man hate hour.
Well, I was going to say...
Caller, you're on the air. What do you hate about senior citizens?
Oh, they're fucking walkers always holding up lines at the fucking restaurants. Oh, I know what you mean. Burn them all.
You know what really pisses me off is when they go to a store and they ask for their loyalty card and they start sifting through their purse like they don't know what they're fucking talking about. That literally happened the other day when we were at the fucking Transformers. There was like some lady in front of line and she was like taking her sweet time, and then there's like these two teenagers in front of us. And this teenager goes to buy the ticket. He's like, I fucking hate it when people don't have their loyalty cards and everything just ready and stuff like that. He's like, these fucking people just holding up the goddamn line. Like, this is like a 15-year-old who's like on like a podium, like holding up the fucking line, not knowing what's going on. Like, what's the world coming to? What's the world coming to?
He's holding up the line.
And he's like, well, he's not going on this big of a ramp. He's like, I make sure that I pay my ticket right away so these good people behind me could be able to go in an orderly manner.
The more you know.
Yeah, just fine. Just like teenager, backwards hat. I mean, I probably had a backwards hat on too, but
I'm
still.
imagining just if it was our generation, probably a Cradle. I know it's probably younger than that, but I'm just imagining a Cradle of Filth T-shirt.
Yeah, because now Cradle of Filth would be like, that's your dad's fucking band. It's
It's
weird to
old
think that,
people
like,
music. If it
Cradle of
was,
Filth is just as old as Tupac, and
I'm
just
just
as old as
imagining
Guns N'
kids.
Roses. It's
I'm
weird to
just,
think, but like, there's some bands. Okay, like Guns N' Roses. I'll say this, even though that's a big band for me, I will say that band does kind of feel kind of classic rock by this point. Like, I'll accept that that's classic rock. But you know what's weird is to go like, technically by that standard, Cradle of Filth is classic rock. I mean, they're only a couple years behind Guns N' Roses. Or like the thing about like, Ice Cube. He is now like your dad's music.
I was talking to my dad a little bit ago, and I said like, it's weird. Spencer sent me a text and said like the Hawk was playing Green Day the other day, and he's all like, "Now you know how it feels."
We know what's the worst part too? It wasn't even like an old Green Day song. It was like a 2000s Green Day song.
Like
That's what
American
made it.
Idiot or something like that.
No, not that far. The album right before that.
Oh, like um, no, that's Nimrod. Like Dookie or some shit like that.
No,
Maybe no,
Dookie's like that's the third album.
that's the third album. Okay, I get kind of mixed up on which ones came out when and all that. But yeah, I mean, American Idiot was their big comeback one.
It's the
But,
one that's got like it's got the couple faces and they got the block like it says like censored across their eyes, like an old school punk rock album.
that's
Maybe
not.
it's Nimrod.
That is that is. I thought Nimrod was like the '90s. Maybe not. Okay, okay.
I mean, like it might be 99, maybe at maximum, but it's like 99 and or 2000, 2001.
Okay.
I could be
Yeah.
wrong. Once again, it could not be that album too, but
Is it the album has the Grouch on it? Like, I'm just like, nah, I'm just not, like I don't like. Well, he's talking about his dad being an angry old bitch or whatever.
it might be that one. I'm not too sure.
Anyway, no, but I was gonna say there's some older people you just assume when you're a kid, you see them, you'll see like an adult, be like, that is an adult. Well, what's an adult? A bigger person than me that has everything figured out. And then
What's an adult? It's an 8th grader when you're in 1st grade.
yeah. Well, no, it's kind of weird. I remember seeing like, I remember being like in the 1st grade and seeing like 5th graders or even like 3rd graders, and they looked like college frat boys to me. I don't know what it was.
It's weird. Yeah, no, that's totally true. It's like they felt like, and it was like now you look like an 8th grader and you're like, that's a fucking child.
And now if I look at a college frat boy, I'm like, oh, dude, you're a fucking kid, you know?
Yeah, you
So
look
it's
at
kind
those
of-
guys.
Yeah, yeah. I just remember just seeing them. They looked like out of like an '80s movie, like a 5th grader looked like out of an '80s movie. College frat. Yo, bro, what are you doing? This is only 5th grade's lunch table. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't mean to be here. Well, that's okay. You can give us your Game Boy Pocket now. Oh, I don't
Now
want to
roll
give
him out. Just fucking roll the fat kid out of the cafeteria. It's for his own good. No, but I was gonna say you reach that point though where it's just like you kind of realize, oh, what this is right here. This is, I guess you can call them adults, but it's more than anything an older person that no one ever told them to shut the fuck up. Or an older person who has never called them their bullshit. Because you see some people like that just have this assumption, like, well, I'm older, so with age comes wisdom. Like, no, not always. Sometimes you just say the same stupid, shitty person. No one ever just called you on your bullshit for whatever reason.
Well, some people too. It's like the older they get, they just assume that they're getting smarter, but without actually educating themselves. Because here's the thing: if you sit around and you're always reading stuff and you're always keeping up to date, then yeah, you can become a really intelligent old person. Like there's old people I know that like they actually are, 60 years old, but like you would almost feel like they're 35 hanging out with you because they're up to date. There's, you know what I mean? Like you can tell them about a band, they know what you're talking about. You can tell them about like technology, they know because they've been reading up on it.
I know that like this isn't me like bragging or nothing. I know I'm smarter now than I've ever been, but the older I get, I just feel more dumb. Just because, like, oh, here's this thing that I didn't know about before, So I think some people, like you just said, they just kind of assume, like, well, I got to 40 and that's good enough, I've been working at the factory or whatever. I've been doing this for that long. I have a set 10-year or a set retirement ready for me. Time for me to just kick up the boots and just call it good.
Yeah, and there's that. I mean, as I said, there is a certain job. Like, I mean, if you do have one of those like backbreaking jobs that like that's more just the problem of kind of like the world is those jobs that pretty much destroy you in 20 years, so that you pretty much can't do anything by the time you're like age 45.
And I'm not trying to like totally bring down like blue collar working class people. I actually think more often than not, those are the people that get it because they actually learned a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? maybe not empathy is the word, but they
Integrity.
actually integrity. Yeah, like they've actually they've had those kind of jobs. So they've had rough working jobs, so they get it. Where I think it's a lot of I don't know what these other older people that they just annoy the fuck out of us. I don't know what they did before or what it was, but I feel like those are the ones that never really had much of a didn't work a whole lot, you know?
Well, a lot of times I'll say this: the seniors that have the worst problems are always the ones that are generally a little bit more like middle class. They made some money throughout life. Those are the you very because here's the thing: a lot of times you meet the guy who is like the guy like I drove the old truck down at Bob and Jimmy's for my... that guy's mostly actually a pretty well guy because the thing is maybe he's still fucking outside cutting wood. He's still kind of like doing stuff. He's not asking for a handout as much. Those guys are a lot of times better. It's you get the people that's just like yes. I worked down, at the office building and I was in charge of like firing people. And those are the people that a lot of times get this super entitled feel like, it's like, oh, I was into electronics when I was in the 80s and I made all kinds of money. Now I just sit on my ass. I think a lot of times those are the people that a lot of times have more an issue. It's like it's that middle class more than it is like the poor class. Not say it's like when you get to the really poor class, once you start getting to like the ghetto, like redneck trailer trash people, then that's a different story. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I thought we were gonna peter out at like 106, but here we are at 150.
Yeah, well, somehow, some way, we found like that's all. Remember how we were talking?
Look what hate can bring. Hate can
can
make some really interesting conversations.
Hate brings art, just like laughter brings art. All these things can motivate you to art because here's the thing: if you didn't have emotion, if you didn't have feeling towards things, you would never have art and you would never have communication. But once there's something in there, whether it be hate or I like how like Russ too, it's like, man, you don't hate on a movie, you don't hate on a comic book, you don't hate on music, you respect it all for what it is. But when there's fucking people out there that are fucking shitting on your fucking freedom, fuck those people. I mean, that's kind of how I feel in life. I think we should be grateful for everything we have, and we should be like, hey, take it all in. But the second that you get somebody who feels fucking entitled, fuck that motherfucker. Somebody who thinks that they're better than everybody else, somebody who's unwilling to learn, no. I think that is the problem.
Regarding all the things you're saying about art and emotions, let's just say equilibrium was right.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what Christian Bale was trying to tell us.
Exactly. And, you always got to listen to the messages of Christian Bale because they're important.
And Gun Fu.
Yes, that too. God, I haven't seen that. Boy, that's a movie. I kind of forgot about that. That was like one of those like post-Matrix movies.
That might need to be a. I gotta watch it again.
But I would seek that movie out if we did a retrospect on it because I kind of.
That might be a retrospect.
I've been wanting to do a retrospect again for a while. I know we've been talking about it for like the last 3 months and we haven't done it, but.
That is a post-Matrix movie, and I remember I liked the movie, but I had a little bit of this grudge towards it because it was just like blows Matrix out of the water.
Because they did that advertising where, once again, that ties us all the way to the beginning of our episode with like the Sega, Nintendo wars, and everybody like that. But they did that thing, which I feel that almost is what creates fanboys more than anything else. Is when one company says like, "Yeah, this one's so good, the Matrix is like the fucking wussy version of it." Because that instantly goes, fuck you, I'm standing by the Matrix 100%. Fuck you, Equilibrium, think you're so fucking special. And it's the same thing.
Like, that movie just dragged its nutsack across Keanu Reeves' face. That's how good that movie is.
Yeah, it's like, I think that almost creates fanboys more than actually its own stuff. It's almost like when the rival competition puts down the thing you like, that is what creates more of a stronger fanboy.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't know how many times I've been turned away from so many things when they have that kind of advertising. You don't really see that advertising as much as you used to. That was a very 90s, 2000s way of advertising, was literally putting things down to get your point across.
Well, even remember cereal commercials. I mean, this is going to lead a whole other topic for another 15 minutes, so I'll make this quick. We talked about this a little bit ago. But cereal commercial, but they were like, they ultimately taught kids shitty values. Like let's use something aside from Lucky Charms and the Trix Rabbit. Like Corn Pops is all about like a very selfish, very paranoid kid. Like he's gonna steal my pops. He wants my pops. He's gonna come in. He's gonna steal my pops. It's just like almost as if like he buried a fucking body, and he's like, he's gonna crack. He's gonna tell somebody, man. He's gonna find out. We gotta ice him before he ices us. It's almost like something to that level. Or the one that was just like the Rice Krispies. Like, want some Rice Krispies? Sure. Psych!
I thought that was Waffle Crisp.
It could have been both.
Okay, maybe. No, Waffle Crisp had the old
I want to say it was... I want to say Rice, that old lady's stealing your shit. Yeah. No, it was like Rice Krispies. Remember, it was a kid eating a bowl of Rice Krispies going down a purple inner tube.
Yeah, psych!
And like a water slide. Psych!
But I don't know what it is. That was totally like 90s average, because the video games were bad about it. You could just pick up any book from like 1996 or magazine from 1996. Just look at the ads. The ads in there, like, I almost just like it for like historical value, but when you think about it in like into context, they're like horrible. As they just like would put down everybody else just to like booster their own. I mean, I guess you could say maybe that was sort of like, was that what the 90s was all about? We think of it being this like magical time full of color.
I think we thought it was like edgy. I mean, we got to keep in mind, this is a time where people were really idolizing Bart Simpson. So people would just be edgy and like, by having your arms crossed, like, whatever, man, that makes you cool.
Yes. Well, like,
Smells Like Teen Spirit was the anthem.
Yeah, it's like, you could say that Nirvana kind of style of like the whatever lifestyle of the 90s created things where like you could put down other. It's kind of weird because it's like, I don't think of the 90s being like a negative time. I feel like it being a very like positive like sort of section, because it just seemed like things were getting very accepted. Things were almost starting to like intermingle, and it wasn't like, I mean, you take like Sum 41 coming up at the end of the 90s, like, what is that? That's like the marriage of like punk rock, metal, and rap all in one, and pop. Like, it's like, what more could you want? It's everything you needed in one. Like, we're not like having any problems anymore. And maybe that's like, but at the same time, then you got the other side of it where it's like the backlash of like where everybody's putting each other down to try to sell their products.
Well, even though the 90s were over by this point, I think it was ultimately 9/11. It was just like, oh man, fuck, what's the point? I think that's where it really doubled down.
Yeah, and then, well, that kind of like, I think that's what created like that, like, oh, we can't live that Sum 41 lifestyle anymore. Shit got real. And I just like, for every other country is like, fuck you guys, this stuff happens to us all the time. It's like 10 times worse. Yeah, but you're not America, so
you don't get it.
You don't get it. That's always like, it makes me kind of laugh. It's like, okay, 9/11's like, it's not that it's a bad thing, but like you just compare it to like shit that happens in other people's countries. It is fucking
That's like Tuesday.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? It's like
Europe's had like 5 9/11s over the last like couple years.
And then we'll be going back to 9/11 until something that happened. Pretty much, I guess, because what was before 9/11? You like went to like Pearl Harbor, Pearl Harbor. Oh my god.
I guess the worst thing before that was the Oklahoma City bombing, but that wasn't come from overseas. That came just from homegrown psychos that believed in God and all that.
Yeah. And I mean, that one was bad too, but it wasn't like an extreme like one. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I look at Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor was like a big deal.
I guess you can say I guess if you're looking at something that came from another country, I guess looking at that aspect, yeah.
Yeah, that too, but
I mean, okay. Pearl Harbor was worse than like Oklahoma City bombing, definitely, but yeah. All right, getting off topic. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect place to leave off on the episode. 9/11, Pearl Harbor. What's worse?
Yeah. You decide. Hashtag.
Hashtag you decide. Pearl Harbor or 9/11. Which one's worse? Till then.
Well, we got the tally from last week. Looks like 9/11 wins. Whoa!
Actually, we got a lot more votes for the Oklahoma City bombing for some reason. Don't know why people think that one was worse. But that's a good place to leave off on the episode, I think. Make sure to check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, and more. Check out Pizza Boys on both Comixology and Amazon. Read some of the funny. Might as well. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. Won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week to Old Man Orange.